Where's our
Mine's on.
Just no, it's not. Nothing, Dr. Ewing, nothing. Good evening. I'd like to open the meeting now. This is the regular board meeting of Tuesday, February 20th. Thank you for being here. We're going to go ahead and start with roll, please. And I need to let you know that our microphones are not showing up lit. Okay, now it's going. Okay, good. We're ready.
All right.
Roll call.
All right. Ms. Dahlman.
Here.
Mr. Castro. Vice President Frank.
Here.
President Flores.
Here.
And I am here. Madam President, we have a quorum.
Okay, and I'd like to welcome our student advisor. Cameron is here with us today. Let's stand for the pledge, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Juro lealtad a la bandera de los Estados Unidos de América
y a la república que representa una nación bajo Dios, indivisible, con libertad y justicia para todos.
Okay, we are going to approve the minutes here. I will entertain a motion to approve the minutes of October 3rd, 2017, closed executive and special session board meetings, October 17th, 2017, regular board meeting, and January 9th, 2018, closed executive and special session.
I so move.
Second.
Okay, we have a first from Mr. Jaramillo and a second from Mr. Castro. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So that passes. We now move to approve the agenda. I will entertain a motion to approve the agenda. Mr. Castro first.
Second.
Ms. Dahlman second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I will go to approve the consent agenda items. I will entertain a motion to approve consent agenda items 5C1, student out-of-state travel, 5D3, budget adjustment request, 5D4, disposal of property, and 5D5, January vendor payments.
So moved.
Okay, we have a first from Ms. Dahlman. Second from Mr. Castro. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And that passes. We go on to the closed executive. The board met in closed executive session on February 20th, 2018, from 4:36 p.m. to 6:33 p.m. to discuss A, to finalize and present superintendent's evaluation and discussion of contract. B, limited personnel matters as permitted under Section 10-15-82, specifically for the superintendent to update the board regarding the investigations of certified and classified employees by the superintendent and inform the board of specific employee movements. C, collective bargaining strategies preliminary to bargaining negotiations as permitted under Section 10-15-1H5 of the New Mexico Open Meetings Act. And D, discussion of personally identifiable information about individual students as permitted under Section 10-15-1H4 of the New Mexico Open Meetings Act, specifically so that the superintendent can update the board regarding student investigations and claims. Do I have a motion? Oh, no, I don't need an emotion. Never mind. We're done. All right, we move on to, we don't need to do it. We move on to recognitions. And
Yes, ma'am.
let's see.
Yes, ma'am. Madam President,
Dr.
members of the
Ewing.
board, and to the members of our audience, I'm going to call forward Dr. Wendy Miller Tomlinson, Assistant Superintendent of Teaching and Learning, who will lead us through the recognitions. And Madam President, if I may, if the board could join me in the front, and we're going to greet all of the children, students who are here today to congratulate them on their accomplishments. So if you would. Want me to go on?
Sure.
All right. Madam President, members of the board, Mr. Superintendent, it's always a pleasure to recognize a community partner, and tonight we want to thank Colleen Boyd, the owner of Downtown Desert Yoga. She is focused on supporting our staff through wellness. Colleen, would you come forward? With support from the Paso del Norte Health Foundation HEAL grant, the district contracted with Downtown Desert Yoga to provide yoga classes to LCPS staff at Colleen's studio on Thursday afternoons at a very discounted price. Our staff has been exercising, doing yoga, and turning off the stress. The classes got so full that Colleen suggested the classes be expanded this semester to all weekdays after school, again at a very nominal cost to LCPS staff. Barbara Berger from our nutrition and wellness staff says our employees can now register for up to 2 free classes per week, which is amazing. We even have a few male staff now enjoying the yoga classes. I have a couple of emails from staff that are taking advantage of this focus on wellness. One teacher writes, I find that I am better able to relax, my focus has improved, and I sleep more soundly. My mental and emotional health are not the only things that I have improved since I started. I am happy to say that the introduction of this healthy practice has been life-changing for me, and I am deeply grateful for the benefits it has provided. Another employee writes, through last year's health grant, our school was lucky enough to get an instructor from Downtown Desert Yoga. Through yoga, our team now shares a special bond. We are not only co-workers, but we are now friends. Thank you so much. You have made such a difference in my life and those around me. Madam President, these testimonials and many others show how valuable the partnership with Colleen Boyd and Downtown Desert Yoga has been to our staff. So thank you.
And I just want to say I've been going to Downtown Desert Yoga, I don't know how many years has it been now? Over 8. Over 8. So I've been doing yoga for 11 years, but I've been going to this yoga studio since you opened. Yeah. Can you hold on to this? Yeah. Hasta chiquita. Okay. That was good. Smile.
So our next recognition If you recall, on January 17th, we found evidence of mold at Central Elementary. Principal Susie Hindy, the school staff, the physical plant, nutrition services, and the operations personnel were quick to respond in finding an off-site location for the students so that the school could get cleaned. But we didn't do it alone. We had incredible support from our neighbors, the Las Cruces Boys and Girls Club, and St. Paul's United Methodist Church. These two organizations did not hesitate when they were contacted about housing all 233 students for 2 days while the building was cleaned. They offered their space, allowed for meals to be served, and were gracious hosts to students, staff, and parents. Tonight, we'd like to recognize the individuals who were responsible for assisting Central Elementary. From the Boys and Girls Club of Las Cruces, Ashley Echevarria, the CEO. And from St. Paul's United Methodist Church, Mark Ewing, the church administrator. Pastor Darren Skinner. And his wife, Sheila Skinner. In addition to providing the students the space they needed to attend school, the Boys and Girls Club also gave a hands-on science lesson to 4th and 5th graders, and St. Paul's provided a continental breakfast to our teachers both mornings. We could not have had such a smooth evacuation without the help and support of our neighbors, and the students also plan to recognize these partners at an upcoming assembly in their mold-free school. And I am a parent of a Central Elementary child, and from the parents' point of view, thank you very much to all of you for what you did for the students. So this is for Boys and Girls. Happy to help anytime. Good neighbors, really good neighbors. Thank you so much. Thank you. Now we're getting to the good stuff. This evening, we would like to recognize students from the Centennial High School Media Program and their teachers for recently earning first place in team competition at the 2018 New Mexico Activities Association, New Mexico Scholastic Press Association state competition. As part of the competition, the CHS team's 39 students competed against 9 other New Mexico high school teams and scored a total of 77 points. Just to give you an idea of how successful these students were, the second place team earned a total of 32 points. Individually, students from the CHS team earned 8 first place awards, 10 second place awards, 6 third place awards, and 2 honorable mention awards. In addition, Jude Gonzalez was awarded the Mark Holm High School Photojournalism Award. On behalf of the district and the Board of Education, we would like to recognize all of you for your outstanding work. So Hawks, come on up. So there's a little bit more. In addition to winning the state NMAA competition, the CHS student news team was recently named the STN Intermountain Regional winners for the best weekly news broadcast. In March, the team will travel to Nashville, Tennessee to compete against 6 other regional winners for the National Excellence Broadcast title in 2017. Students from the media program also won, and I believe, Mr. Jaramillo, you know one of these students pretty well? Okay. All right, congratulations.
Make sure you can see the photographer. Maria, can you scoot over to your right? Right here. Yeah, there we go. Okay.
You guys look this way just for me. Thank you. I'll be down here.
Okay, on to our next recognition. On Wednesday, January 24th, 2018, a student at Mesa Middle School found himself choking on a piece of burrito while having breakfast in the cafeteria. Maria Luera, a food service worker, quickly jumped to action and performed the Heimlich maneuver on him without even thinking twice. According to health assistant Melissa Ames, Maria literally saved the student's life. Maria, please come forward and be recognized for your quick thinking and courageous acts. So, Madam President, members of the board, Mr. Superintendent, we had also planned to recognize Fatah Swad, who was our spelling bee winner, but he is not here this evening, so we will recognize him at a future board meeting. So that concludes our recognitions. Thank you. Thank you. Oh, I get to shake your hands too?
Okay, this takes us, I want to take a personal point of privilege, Dr. Ewing.
Yes, ma'am.
In recognizing our
Your
yoga.
mic. Yes, ma'am.
It's on.
Your mic.
It's on. The yoga owner and instructor that came up. We also forgot to thank Barbara Berger, who is one of our own.
Oh, yeah.
She's the one that put the grant together, and I didn't realize she was here. She got up and left, so I'm sorry, but she needed to be thanked as well for allowing, it's her work that then extended to the yoga studio, to the faculty. So those of you that know her, please let her know that we need to recognize her as well for her hard work. I appreciate what she's done for the staff. She's worked very hard for the staff. So on a belated thank you to her. Okay, Dr. Ewing. This takes us on to public input. Actually, it's my time to talk.
Yes, ma'am.
Before we move to public input, I would like to remind our audience of the board's procedures for handling public comment, which are found in policy BEDH and on the sign-up card. Each speaker must complete a sign-up card prior to speaking. Public comment is limited to 3 minutes per individual speaker and 5 minutes for each group spokesperson. The board welcomes public input. The board does not prohibit public criticism or comment upon personnel matter. However, any person making public comments shall be solely responsible for the content of his or her comments. The board neither adopts nor assumes responsibility for any comments made by individuals during the public input section of the board meeting. So do we have some? Okay. Yes, please. Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, so we have, okay. I'll go ahead and call you up by name, and please come up to the podium to speak, and we will give each person 3 minutes, okay? Huda Ali, I don't know if I've pronounced your name correctly.
Didn't expect to be the first name.
Oh, well, your name was up on top, so.
I was the last one in.
Oh. They didn't number them for me, so I'm sorry.
So I'm here today to speak about something that happened at Desert Hills Elementary. Before I start introducing myself, I would like just to point out one thing. Last Friday, along with other parents, we were called by Mr. Superintendent being dramatic. So we were described as dramatic parents, and that if we need the best interest of our children, we need to stop the drama. Now, that said, I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Huda Ali. I am a physician, an MD. I am a neuropsychiatrist. That's a mix between one of two major disciplines in medicine, that's neurology and psychiatry. My area of expertise is in child psychiatry, developmental pervasive disorders. I worked with children with ADHD, learning disabilities, emotional disturbances. For 15 years is my experience. And I am here studying a Master's of Public Health and Master's of Bioinformatics. This is who I am. And so I highly object to being called dramatic. And I think that this very short CV says how much I appreciate education, and this is why I'm here with my children. And when something affects the education of one of my children, I have every right to speak up and say that I am objecting and get some explanation that makes me at least feel comfortable with the person who is making decisions that are affecting my child. Now, when I went to superintendent's office, I went there because I felt there is an ethical responsibility to express my opinion as a parent and as an active member of this community, that I feel the decision that was made to suddenly remove the principal of his school, which is the best school in this city, was more than sudden and actually affected the emotional stability of our children. I felt responsibility towards my son to do this and towards the community, and I was not heard and my questions were not acknowledged. That being said, I was also told that it is by Mr. Superintendent that it is his decisions can be made on his own and that the board does not need to review or to interfere in his decisions, and that the law of New Mexico gives him this right. One of the parents actually objected that this is a public decision in a public serving entity, but again, we were not acknowledged, we were not answered, and we do not know any explanation for this sudden move that affected our children. I am not speaking only for my son, I am speaking for the rest of the students. And mentioning this, the word students has not been mentioned one time during this whole issue.
If you can finish your thought.
Okay, so for the students, my issue, the main concern I have is the emotional stability of developing children, especially those are elementary, not middle school children or high school children. They extend their trust, they learn how to trust their environment now, and the school personnel for them are not employees. These are family members, these are part of their environment, and when we change their environment, suddenly we shake the world beneath their feet.
And Dr. Ali, if I could ask you to finish now.
Okay,
Because I have several people here.
I believe I said enough, and
Okay.
I will leave it to others.
Thank you,
so,
doctor.
Thank you.
I'm going to call up Yamel Mayans.
Good night. Hi. I'm coming also talking about against the decision made for the principal of Desert Hills, but also to comment that all it's been a lot of change since Mr. Erwin has been coming to this city. It's been a year, and in that year, I have papers here with me with all the changes that he's been made suddenly. And the problem here is that all this is affecting our district. Not only our school, Desert Hills, is just the rest of the district. And like I told you, I can give you these papers at the end of this. Our principal was affected too. Now, the problem right now is not only these people, it's the conduct that he's been having with the superintendent here. That day on Friday that we have a meeting with him, the arrogance that he treated us with was incredible. I suppose as a parent, I can't believe that the arrogance that he managed with us, being a parents, is the same arrogance that he can manage with the principals or with the workers of education that we have here, who deserves respect. In the 5 last years that Ms. Vince has been the principal of Desert Hills, any parents has been having any trouble with her. I suppose you as being the education of the board of the education, you know that she has to be review. I just want to ask you to check what was the last review and how she was. So I suppose, and I want to understand that what she did, I want him to answer if she had the time to redeem herself. If they give her enough time, if the problem that was enough, good enough to remove her suddenly and after 3 years of career. I think, and I know myself of some members that are afraid to come and talk about this because this superintendent have them threat about a lot of things, and if they speak out, they will be removed totally. So it's people that is been having a lot of afraid, and you as a educative board, I suppose that you can remedy this, and I suppose that you have the power to check and review what's going on with this. This is just impossible, been happening since he got here. You know, that's it. And I'm going to give you these papers if you want.
Thank you, Ms. Mayans. Okay, if Jeffrey Joyce will please come up.
Yeah, that's fine, perfect. I'm gonna put him in my, back.
My name is Jeffrey Joyce. I'm also a concerned parent for the school district that we're talking about here. And my child also attends Desert Hills Elementary School. In the couple of years that she's been here, kindergarten, first, and now second grade, we've had the pleasure to know the principal, Miss Vance. She is extremely kind-hearted person, always has the door open. Any child that ever has a concern with them, the open door policy with her. And I'm a very strict person. I'm actually a physician as well. I value the educational system tremendously. I've had a lot of years in the school systems. I too also went to a public school, so I know how important and how difficult the task can be. At that age, these children that we're talking about, their environment is very important. We're not learning to be doctors when we're first grade, second grade, third grade, but we're learning to trust adults, learning the relationships that they have. And I think to uproot, our child has cried. Can't possibly imagine what Miss Vance could have possibly done. And we were told very clearly with my father was actually at this meeting as well. And he is actually he was an HR person, knows very well what you may or may not be able to disclose, understands the relationships that Mr. Superintendent does have. My father, of HR director of probably close to 40 years, was absolutely impressed by the arrogance that Mr. Ewing represented himself in the school with. It was incredible. There are different ways to say, well, I may not be able to disclose this, I may whatever, but to basically sit back there with your hands and doing this like this and saying, pretty much nobody can touch me. It's what he told us. That it is within his rights and his power, that he is the sole person to make any decisions, and you guys can't even question him. That's quote unquote what he says, that he has so much authority. If that authority is true, then you really need to react. You really need to evaluate who the person you've entrusted this power with. And I would really have you reconsider that. It is tremendous. I'm smart enough, and a lot of the other parents are smart enough to really investigate it upon this matters. And we're a little concerned by the person who is replacing Miss Vance. There seems to be a conflict of interest, a potential conflict of interest. And if these things are going on, and these are the leaders of our school district, I am very concerned, and quite along with the other people would even entertain removing my child from this school district if this is the leadership that they have to represent them. I can only think that I'll leave you with a sports analogy. Bill Belichick. I can't stand the New England Patriots, but before his arrival, I promise you they were a very below mediocre team. Since his arrival, they've won 5 championships and have been to Super Bowl 3 other times in a very short tenure. If you do not think, now Mr. Superintendent may not be an active teacher, although I agree that teachers are the most important, but if you don't think the leadership is important, please talk to Mr. Kraft and the New England Patriots, because they would be nothing without Mr. Belichick. And I believe the leadership of the superintendent of the schools picks the school teachers, picks the other administrators and other people is an extremely important role in the development of our children. And I think that there are some serious matters that need to be looked in from the board of directors.
Thank you. Dr. Joyce. Veronica Lindley.
Hi, good evening. Madam President, Board, my name is Veronica Lindley. I am a former educator as well, so I know several faces around here. I'm just here with a couple of other parents that We're here as concerned constituents whose taxes pay for Dr. Ewing's salary, and also as parents, we feel he is making decisions across the district that are having negative impact on our students and faculty and costly impact on our district's budget without giving any explanation or justification. Dr. Ewing throws the word transparency around so easily, but has yet to be transparent. So we are here asking that he just do that. We would like to know the exact number of employees on the maximum day on leave, and I believe it's about in between 35 to 50. And most importantly, why? Why are there so many? Are they due to investigations? Some people even said scare tactics to pressure them to resign. I don't know, but we need to know why. These situations are concerning and are not isolated incidents. It is not just about a principal at Desert Hills anymore, or the secretary that nobody's heard from. This is going across Las Cruces Public Schools. Also, do the math. What is the economic impact on the district's budget when you are paying all these employee salaries and on top you put the subs salaries? Dr. Ewing is not being fiscally responsible nor accountable. And we don't even have enough subs from what I hear. I see flyers flying all over. But even more concerning, and you've already heard this, even more concerning than his decisions are his management and execution of certain situations. Again, not the actual removal of a principal, because I've worked in the schools and I know that happens, but how he did it. He is condescending of parents and employees alike. He has put some employees on leave as scare tactics. He has violated code of conduct and his responsibility by refusing to answer simple questions and by refusing to meet with certain parents. And I have an email, I don't know if I'm allowed to, of a parent that couldn't be here today, and he has refused to meet with them in the future. And when a few of us did meet with him concerning our principal, Ms. Vance, he dismissed our concerns and questions and said, and I quote, "You need to accept and support my decisions and stop with the drama." And then, we had a few more minutes, and then he, stood up, did this, and he's like, "Meeting is over." And I've never finished a meeting like that before. So now, we're aware that you guys had, you met earlier to evaluate Dr. Ewing, but I implore you, as a board, to take appropriate action. I'm not sure if you're considering a raise, but I ask that you do not give him a raise nor extend his contract. He's been costly and has added a financial burden on the budget. And please remind him of the integrity and ethical responsibilities his position must uphold. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Lindley. Katie Morrow, please.
Good evening, Madam President, members of the board, and Mr. Superintendent. My name is Katie Morrow. I have two children at Desert Hills. I have a first grader, Amelia, and a third grader, Atticus. And they have been at Desert Hills for the last 4 years, or Atticus has been at Desert Hills for the last 4 years. One of the things that I have impressed upon my children since they started school, and they've been in public school through elementary school, is the importance of kindness and the importance of respect. And we, as parents, as people who believe in education, I'm an attorney. I have clearly gone through a lot of education on my own, much of it public school education. And it's important that we teach those values along with all of the values and education and reading and writing and arithmetic that we are instilling in our children at the same time. And I have been so impressed by the staff at Desert Hills since we have been there, and by our former principal, Jamie Vance, since we've been there, at the level of kindness and respect that they have not only shown to my children, but also to me and to my husband. And that is something that that we've been demonstrated since the moment we walked into that school. Mrs. Vance took us under her wing and was ready to have us into her office whenever we needed to see her. She was able to always keep up with what was going on in our children's educational careers. She knew us when we were walking down the hallway. She knew exactly what was going on with Atticus and Amelia and what teachers would be appropriate for them, and really has taken our feelings and our thoughts into consideration regarding their education. And we've really appreciated that. Ms. Vance has been an educator for over 30 years. She has served our children for over 30 years. And she was demonstrated an utter lack of respect in making this move that was imposed upon her on a Thursday evening before our big school fundraiser the next day. She was let known that she was going to be moving on Thursday evening and that it would be effective as of the next Monday. None of the parents or the teachers or anything were made aware of the circumstances of that move. And none of us really even knew anything about it until Friday afternoon before she was going to be moved on Monday. It's an utter lack of respect. And that's the exact opposite of what we are trying to demonstrate to our children on a regular basis. Thanks so much for hearing me.
Thank you, Ms. Morrow. Manny Briesle? Brisky, I'm sorry. I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry about that.
Oh, it's okay. So I'm McKinney Brisky. I'm also a parent from Desert Hills, and I'm here to talk about the district as a whole. Yes, I was very upset by what happened to Jamie Vance. I think Jamie's fabulous, and I have appreciated the past 4 years being with her. I was actually here last year celebrating the student government of Desert Hills getting a donation of the plaque outside their door, outside their school. And I just remember the warm feeling I had of belonging to this district and being so proud of the girls and just kind of the feeling of community and respect of education. And then, the Centennial High School earlier, seeing them celebrated, that's what I expect out of a school district, whatever school district. And I just really want to put the word out there for not doing this to teachers and not doing this to principals. Just moving them all of a sudden, it affects, the classroom, it affects the teachers, it affects the students, and it just does not seem right to me. I know it's done, and I don't agree with it, but also just handling it a little differently from now on and being more supportive of the community as a whole. Whatever schools, I'm rooting for, whichever schools, whatever principals, because we need that sense of just stability. And what really upsets me is my son last week came up to me and he said, Mom, I know why Miss Vance was moved. I'm like, why? And he said, politics. And I said, what are you talking about? And he said, well, Mom, the world's a scary place right now. And that broke my heart. Yes, the world is kind of going through and we have a lot of people at each other's throats, but my fourth grader doesn't need to feel that about his school and that his principal was moved because of politics. And even if I was told that absolutely it was not a punishment for her to move, they just needed her in another place. Well, that should have been demonstrated through the process of moving her so that the students felt more comfortable about it, and the parents did too. And that's all I have to say. Thanks.
Thank you, Ms. Brisky. Thank you to all the parents for speaking up. We now move on to the superintendent. No, is it the superintendent's report?
Yes.
And so,
I haven't
Yes,
turned the
ma'am.
page, so I don't know. Yes, Dr. Ewing.
yes, ma'am. So, Madam President, members of the board, and to the members of our audience, I would like to call forward, let's see, I think Bridget, are you taking this one on? So Ms. Bridget Ziegelhofer is going to talk to us about our Blue Ribbon Committee.
Madam President, Mr. Superintendent, members of the board, Mr. Woods didn't want to join me, but I'm not going to let him get out that easy. So Ben Woods, can you join me at the podium? While he comes up, I just want to say congratulations to everybody on the passage of our school bond issue. What a great victory for the school district. It truly, truly was a team effort. So, you know, I can't do it without a team. I would love to take the credit, but certainly Mr. Woods played a really large role in our success. So I wanted to bring him here this evening to join me in a few words of thanks. First off, we want to thank our community. If it wasn't for the support of our community, our bond issues wouldn't be possible. Our construction projects wouldn't be possible. The renovations that we need would not be possible. And when I say community, I want to say thank you to our parents. With over 24,000 students in our school district, we have a lot of parents in our community. So our parents come out and they supported us. They supported us by voting and they supported us in our campaign. So a huge heartfelt thanks to our parents. I'd like to thank my partner in this whole effort, Mr. Gabe Hawkes. Him and I took it on this year, and we learned a lot, and we went forward with it. But really, the thanks this evening, I would like to give to our Blue Ribbon Committee Chair, Mr. Ben Woods. So, Mr. Superintendent, Board of Education, if you'd like to come down and join me, I'll present a small gift of our appreciation. So it's a little gift. It doesn't show our gratitude, but every time you look at it, know the impact you had on our school district. Thank you. It's a team effort. Thank you so much for your... We had fun. We had fun.
Could you this way? Yeah, there you go. And Bridget, can you scoot in? Okay. Well. Great. Thank you. Thank you all very much. Thank you.
So before I clear the podium, I'm going to take advantage of the moment that I have. I'd like to point out that in 1987, a young, bright-eyed woman joined the district and took on her first bond election. Many people don't know, but this year, the baton was passed to me and taking over the bond elections. You see her celebrating. But I think it was very hard for Ms. Galvan because even though it's a lot of work, she took great pride in running our bond elections. And she keeps telling me this is her last one, so I'm afraid it really is. So while I have the opportunity, I wanted to present Jo with a small token of my gratitude in mentoring me through this process. She really held my hand. She has a unique training style. She forces you to think on your own, but then when you get off track, she kind of pushes you back. So Jo, I just wanted to call you up here and thank you, and I have a little gift for you. And Paul was part of our team, little Mr. Dahlgren here. He worked tireless to support us and dealt with my craziness, so thank you. Thank you, Mr. Superintendent.
Thank you very much. Madam President, members of the board, and to the members of our audience, I'm next going to call Mr. Al Lambeth forward. He is from the Elks Lodge. Mr. Lambeth approached us. He called on February the 8th saying that his organization would like to assist teachers by selecting a teacher each month to award money to purchase classroom supplies. He asked to speak briefly to the board to make them aware of the project and also to get their input on the selection process. So, Mr. Lambeth, are you present tonight? Okay, so we will have him at the next meeting. Next, we're going to do the budget update.
We have Mountain View.
I'm sorry. Update on Mountain View AED program, and I believe, Bridget, you're going to handle this one as well? Yes?
Madam President, members of the board, Mr. Superintendent, it's me again.
Welcome back.
This evening, I love that I get to come and celebrate the wonderful partnerships that we have with our community. So I wanted to touch base quickly, and I will ask Sandy and Dawn to join me, because as you saw at your last meeting, they're proposing a wonderful project within our schools with Mountain View, with the installation of AEDs in all of our facilities. So I wanted to give a quick update and also invite, we have several members of Mountain View here with us this evening, so I'd like to invite them up as well, because we don't always get to see their faces. So Denton Park, Chief Executive Officer, if you could join us. Ben Woods, we all know who Ben is, the Director of Marketing for Mountain View. Mark Copeland, who's our Director of Professional Outreach, and Daryl Wooten, who is our LCPS liaison. And they all came so nicely dressed. Daryl wore a tie again. So to give a quick update, I'd like to let you know of two things. Because this project is so important, today the Las Cruces Public Schools Foundation joined the partnership. They have agreed to come on board with us and be supporting us in the grant search for the AEDs. So as you know, the partnership is more of a sponsorship with Mountain View, and we're going to find a grant to purchase for the other half of the purchase. So the foundation is going to play a critical role in that and getting that expedited for us. So we're very happy to report that this evening. But tonight was more of an opportunity to surprise our friends at Mountain View and honor the partnership that we have in place by presenting them with a wonderful plaque. So again, I'm sorry to make you get up. You're getting your exercise tonight. Barbara Berger would be very happy. And I'm asking you to come down and join us as we honor Mr. Park and his team and for the partnership that we have in place.
Thank you very much for the partnership. We appreciate it. Did you want to explain what an AED is? Can somebody explain what an
We will, yeah, I'm going to let Sandy and Dawn do the yeah, there we go. We'll have Denton do it after we take a picture. How about that?
We'll take a picture and then you can explain to us. Since we have some
Take one first, or you want me to get?
Oh, go ahead. I don't need to do this.
Okay.
You ready? I'm not the photographer. There you go. This is not good.
Okay. Thank you.
AEDs are gotcha.
I asked him to define AED.
I'm not sure I know how to define AED. But it's a defibrillator that allows for if your heart begins to have some struggles. These are very simple. Any lay person such as myself would be able to use this device to help get the heart back on track, and these save lives all across the country. So it's a blessing for us to be able to participate in this and to be able to have these at every school. I think last year there was an incident at one of the school locations where this would have come in handy. So as we started to look at that, there was wonderful people who work in the health and welfare of our students let us know that this was something that would be beneficial to them, and we were able to partner with this future grant to be able to bring that to the group. So we're really excited about that opportunity. But while I have the mic, I would really like to have Bridget come back up here. We'd like to recognize Bridget for all of her efforts. She serves on the Las Cruces Public Schools Foundation that does incredible good for our teachers and our students. She also was on the bond election, and I can tell you, as we recruit doctors and nurses and different people into our community, the number one question is about the schools and the school district. So we're so grateful for her efforts and all of your efforts in making it easy to get people to come to Las Cruces. So Bridget.
Excellent. Thank you very much for doing that. Okay. Madam President, members of the board, and to the members of our audience, next we're going to go to a budget update. We just want to continuously update the public that we're beginning the budget process for next school year. Mr. Ellison, our Chief Financial Officer and our certified public accountant in charge of the dollars, will begin working on a budget plan. We'll do that in conjunction with collaboration between principals, between community members, and between the board. We'll certainly roll out several options to the board. Again, as we go through the budget, not to make anyone nervous at the central office, but any open positions, we'll look at those very carefully to see if those are really necessary here, and then return those dollars to the schools. And so as we come closer in the next couple of months, we'll be seeing more and more information. We invite the public and we invite all of our personnel to give us any ideas and suggestions on the budget. I like to use an example, so I'll bring a jar or a can of juice, and then I'll bring in different size cups, and I can say, so it's the same amount of money. How do you want me to pour it? So do we want more in this cup, or do we want more in this cup? We will know our final dollars from the state when they do the SEG after the governor signs the budget. We'll look at that very carefully. We'll look at any savings we've incurred this year, and we'll also look at the amount of money that was recently given to us, approximately $1.3 million. We're holding that until we see what our expenditures are for the year. I reminded the board last time that we did go ahead and authorize an additional 30 positions into the budget after doing the budget at the beginning of the year, and those positions went into schools. Next, I'm going to move to a discussion with the board on safety and security. I just want to update the board that I did send the principals an email reminding them that they are responsible for the safety of every child in their building, asking them to lock all exterior doors, only have one main entrance, to establish a procedure in their own schools for check-in so that they know exactly who's in the building. By law, someone has to identify themselves. The principal has to grant them that authority to remain in the building. I did say to the principals, you have wide latitude in who can and cannot be in your buildings. We want to only have folks who have an educational need to be there, and we want to monitor them at all times. The staff is looking into now some quotes. We're looking at several different options. We have panic buttons in classrooms now. Many of our schools have an automatic system where we can push one button and put the school building in a lockdown. We're looking at a system now where teachers would actually wear the button around their neck. It's the one that says, if you watch the TV commercials, like, help, I've fallen, and you push the button. So we're actually looking at that to see if we can make that work where any teacher could call a code red at any time from inside the school building. We'll see what that budget looks like. We'll see what principals tell us, how effective that could be. We certainly don't want those to be pushed too many times in error. I've also asked the principals to conduct some code red drills and look at themselves as they do it. We'll work with our public safety director and our public safety department. I do want to work with the Las Cruces Police Department and bring an undercover policeman into some schools and just see if he is questioned when he comes through the front door, to see if staff does ask him where is he going. We just want to get some idea how vulnerable we are. I think just the first step is locking all the doors except the front door. And as always, we have the utmost trust and confidence in all of our principals. Appreciate the job that you do every day as I see you sitting here. No one knows until you've walked in our shoes what that life is like. And now, without any questions, Madam President, I'm going to continue. I'm going to call Wendy Albertson, NEA Las Cruces, for the NEA report. Absolutely. Mr. Hawkins?
We're going to go up later when we talk about the marketing.
Oh, okay. So then is Ms. Valdespino here tonight? Or she is not here.
No, she's here.
She's here? Oh, sorry, I didn't see you. Okay. Ms. Valdespino is going to give us the CSEC Las Cruces report. So, Ms. Irma, welcome.
Thank you. Madam President, members of the board, and Mr. Superintendent, it's my pleasure to share with you a beautiful poster of one of LCPS's own children. Her name is Sophie Carrion, the daughter of Cheryl Carrion and Mario Carrion. Sophie has been selected to be the chairperson for the NEA Read Across America. As you know, it's Dr. Seuss's birthday in a few days, and this is a project of the NEA. So I wanted to just share with you that we have a wonderful representative from LCPS to be the NEA New Mexico chairperson of Read Across America. I think a while back, Sophie's activities for bringing books to children was explained. And I just want to share with you the beautiful poster. You can see Sophie and the cat in the hat. And I would like to bring more posters so maybe they can be distributed around LCPS, because I think it's so grand that one of our children is a spokesperson for the NEA Read Across America. So can we give Sophie a hand even though she's not here? Thank you. I'd like to continue now with some remarks. So the New Mexico legislature ended at noon on February the 15th. Being a 30-day session, it was quite a whirlwind to pass a budget. There was more money placed in public education. We will see if it's just adequate or if it's sufficient. There's a difference between a budget being adequate and a budget being sufficient. So we will see. So our correction officers and our state police received, and please correct me, Dr. Lozano, 8% increase. Our teachers, and very deserving. Our teachers received a 2.5 increase. Deserving, but it should have been more. And other school personnel, which include our support staff, our classified staff, a 2%. You heard me the last time around that I was here about economic justice. I don't think our legislature understands the economic justice when it comes to our classified staff. So what I did prior to the meeting, I made some calculations. So let's take a educational assistant, range 1, step 10. Currently, that would be $14.46 times 0.82, that's a 29 cents increase. So I added $14.75 times 7 hours times 183 days. It comes out to $18,894.75. Is there any economic justice in that? Is there any economic justice that she will provide enough money for her children or to help supplement? So you take a custodian, high school, night custodian, range 8, step 17, $12.82 times 0.02 equals 26 cents. I added it, and it's $13.08 times 8 hours times 260 days, $27,000, 206.40. Where is the economic justice in that? An elementary school night custodian, range 2, step 11, $11.12 times 0.02, that's a 22-cent raise. I added it up to, and it comes to $11.34 times 8 hours times 260 days, $23,587.20. Where is the economic justice in that? A few more and I'll be done. An educational assistant, range 3, step 6, $13.94 times 0.02, a 27-cent raise. Added it up, $13.76 times 7 hours times 183 days, $17,626.56. Where is the economic justice in that? I take a secretary, range 3, step 4, $11.45 times 0.02 is 23 cents. Comes out to $11.68 times $7 times 220 days equals $17,987.20. Where is the economic justice in that? We have all declared, and you heard me stand up here year after year, saying, and we all agree, our classified staff, our support staff are the backbone of education. Without them, the schools cannot run efficiently. They cannot, without them, teachers do not have the support for education. They're needed in the school, very much so. I am grateful for the article that came out the other day about John Arthur Smith. It sounds like he's a gatekeeper of the finances in New Mexico. But I would like for him to live on the salaries that I just said. The hope is that we can negotiate more than and additional monies to the 2%. So there will be some economic justice. Like I said, I mentioned to you examples of the last time that we have employees, classified employees, that live paycheck to paycheck. There are employees that go give plasma between paychecks in order to make it for the day. There's employees who choose between going to the doctor and buying groceries for their children. And I can give you stories and more stories of the hardships that occur. Where is the economic justice in that? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Valdespino.
Thank you very much. And Madam President, members of the board, and to the members of our audience, is Mr. Morales still in the, I saw him earlier. David, are you here? He's not. Okay, so I'll take just a moment. Last week, Dr. Sanchez was here visiting, and so Dr. Sanchez and I went and spent an entire class period with Mr. Morales. And as you know, he is the New Mexico Teacher of the Year 2 years ago now. And it was a wonderful visit with his 9th grade New Mexico history class. I have to say, I don't know that I would pass the class when they passed out the map. But what we saw was an individual who was able to build relationships and bond with students. He had only taught them for maybe 4.5, 5 weeks. And it was evident, it was as if he had been teaching them a lifetime. And so that is what we strive for every day as we work with all of our employees. And that's what we strive for when we work with teachers and students. And so I'm looking at Wendy there. When you go back to Mayfield, if you will say to Mr. Morales, how proud I am of him, how proud I am of his relationship building with students and his teaching. He definitely is Teacher of the Year. We did walk down the hall, as if Dr. Sanchez is watching, I'll be in trouble, but he was on his way to go take a break outside the school. But I wanted to continue seeing classrooms, and so we saw beautiful teaching. And Wendy, I don't know how you know when we're in the building, but you always do. So you came and found us in the front office. So thank you so much. Thank you to the Mayfield staff. It was a wonderful visit. I need to do more of those. I need to see more of those teachers in action. And And I need to say more often, thank you for what you do. And so to all of them, I say thank you. And now, Madam President, that's going to conclude the superintendent's report, and I'm going to move back to you.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Ewing, and we'll go ahead and go to the student advisory report, but just as a point of personal privilege, I'd like to welcome Senator Jeff Steinborn, and I think Cameron will be able to explain why we are thanking him here today, okay?
Well, absolutely. Thank you, Madam President, members of the board, Mr. Superintendent. Before we get to Senator Steinborn, KRWG came in our December Student Advisory Council meeting and did a story on the SAC and how we operate. And they decided to queue up the video for tonight. So, Bill, back there, if you can go ahead and get that running, if you have it.
Yes, and we'll talk.
These Las Cruces High School students have a seat on the Board of Education. It's the only seat like it in the state. Founded in 2015, the Student Advisory Council gives select Las Cruces High School students the opportunity to provide input and voice concerns to the district superintendent and Board of Education. Those concerns include lowering the number of standardized tests and preventing student suicides. Centennial High School junior Cameron Castillo is the Student Advisory Council chair. Castillo joined in 2016 and says he hopes more students take advantage of the council's unique position to address policy.
I think every student should have the opportunity to have a voice here in this district. They need to be able to realize that everything that is decided down here could directly impact them in some way, shape, or form. And I hope that students will be able to recognize the work that we do, and with that, provide us with more input and advice that we can go on to relay to the decision makers down here.
About 24 student representatives from 6 of 7 high schools in the Las Cruces Public Schools make up the Student Advisory Council. Meetings are held the day of school board public sessions. The partnership gives students like Mayfield High School senior and vice chair Thomas Wilkinson the chance to attend board meetings and directly report what matters to the roughly 25,000 students in the district. It's Wilkinson's first year on the council. He says he wishes more students would get involved like he did.
I didn't know what I was getting into. When I first got here, my mind was blown. Assuming the leadership role of taking what the students have to say in just my school in general and bringing it here is something I'm proud of being able to say that I'm able to do.
Recently, Castillo says the council began studying the potential safety effects of allowing security guards to carry concealed weapons on campus in case of an active shooter. He says serving on the council makes him feel a greater sense of responsibility to his classmates.
I'll tell you what, it makes me feel even more responsible for relaying the messages that I hear from my peers every day when I go to class to the decision makers down here, both on the school board and in the office of the superintendent. It makes me feel a greater responsibility for doing so.
Students interested in representing their high school must be recommended by their principal before being interviewed by the council chair and sponsor. For KRWG, I'm Michael Hernandez.
So, Madam President, we were very excited when that news report came out. We believe that what we have here within our Student Advisory Council and our opportunity to be a part of these important discussions is something special, and we know that no other school district out of the 89 in the state of New Mexico have a system in place like this. We're one of the select few throughout the entire United States who actually has a student up on the dais, so we were happy that Michael Hernandez and the folks over at KRWG decided to share with the public what we do here. That was a lot of fun for us. It also went on the radio, and we look forward to getting in contact with the folks at KRWG in future endeavors. As you mentioned before we got into the news clip, Senator Jeff Steinborn is here. I want to thank Senator Steinborn because he was our sponsor for Senate Memorial Aid. I'll give a little bit of background. Last year, the 2016-2017 school year, the Student Advisory Council went to Santa Fe to lobby and support a Senate Memorial 51, which called for changes to state statute regarding how guns are transferred within the state and how those changes could decrease the high rates of teen suicide by firearm in the state. This was endorsed by the board, and we went up there. Senator Bill Souls, also from Las Cruces, was our sponsor, and we testified before Senate Rules Committee in support of that. It made it to the floor. The clock of the session ran out before it could come to a final vote on the floor of the Senate. This time around, we wanted to take the same initiative up. We did make some changes to it, and that crafted into Senate Memorial 8 after some research on the part of some of our students in the council. We wanted to call on the state of New Mexico, specifically the Public Education Department and the Legislative Education Study Committee, to study ways to decrease, one, the high rates of teen suicide by firearm in the state of New Mexico, and two, potential active shooter or other gun violence situations within our schools. So once again, Max, who's another student on the council, and I went up, and with Senator Steinborn's help, he was our sponsor for the bill, we testified before the Senate Rules Committee, who passed it, then went on to another Senate committee who passed it, and we weren't thinking that it would come to a vote, especially because this year it was a 30-day session. But after the unfortunate events that happened in Parkland, Florida, something must have changed in the minds of state legislators up in Santa Fe, and it did come to the floor for a vote, and it did pass the Senate by a vote of 25-11. Because it is just a Senate memorial, it's considered enabling legislation. So now what we're hoping to see is a study to be completed by this fall that will let us know what do we think in New Mexico we can do in order to install these safeguards for our students. And it involves a large breadth of things. It's not just gun control. Say it covers things, school safeguards, reporting instances for our students, making them feel comfortable about going to their teachers or administrators about threats that might come up. Mental illness. It encompasses a whole variety of things, and we look forward to seeing what these two agencies come up with. So, Madam President, with your permission, I'd like to call Senator Jeff Steinborn up here, our sponsor for Senate Memorial 8, and thank him for his efforts in making sure that this was passed.
Thank you. Madam Chair, may I say a few words?
Yes, please.
I'm Senator Jeff Steinborn. It is a real honor to be with you, and it feels so good to be back home from the session. I just want to say at the outset, I hope I can convey to you how proud you should be of Cameron and Max. And it started last year when they came to Santa Fe on behalf of the similar initiative. I was blown away at their poise, at their high-level critical thinking, their articulation in front of the committee, and I just conveyed then, wow, guys, you did fantastic. And this year, they absolutely floored my colleagues at how impressive you guys were. Just to let you know, even people who voted against it came up and was like, wow, those young guys were so amazing. And I want to just share that, unfortunately, the final vote wasn't the full story of that memorial. The first time it came off, some faction of the legislature on the floor literally tried to amend out the word gun out of the memorial to study gun violence. And when that failed, they walked off the floor. And from that moment, and literally we lost a quorum. We lost the ability to vote on it at that time. And because it was late at night on a Saturday. And from that moment, thinking about you all, thinking about this community, thinking about you, Cameron and Max, we owed you this vote. We owed you and all students this discussion. And I kept working on the people who weren't in the room and saying, we've got to bring this up, we've got to bring this up. And horrifically, a few days later, I started getting text on the floor about what was happening in Florida. And our leadership absolutely understood, we needed to have that discussion and we needed to have this vote. And you're right, that evening, they let the other party know we're going to be doing this, we're going to be having this vote. It was solemn, it was respectful, and even then it wasn't unanimous, which we need to come around a consensus about the need to take action and public policy solutions to protect our students and to get to a saner place on this issue in our society. But I'm so grateful it passed. Cameron, if someday you're not serving in public office, that in and of itself will be an injustice that we need to look out for. But thank you all for your leadership, board, for bringing this to the legislature twice and saying and asking us to pass this resolution. And thank you for your work on it and leadership. And glad to be a part of the discussion. And as I suggested, stay involved on this issue. We've passed a memorial, but it is just a memorial. It's not a law. So now we need to encourage the Legislative Education Study Committee and the Public Education Department to do something with it, to do meaningful research. And so I think I would encourage you to stay involved on that.
And Senator Steinborn, we want to thank you for collaborating with our students and with the Board of Education. That's how we get things done. And I think that means a great deal to me personally and for all of us. Thank you so much.
It's my honor. Thank you all.
Thank you, Senator.
Appreciate
Thank you. Thank you very much.
So, Madam President, this afternoon in our Student Advisory Council meeting, I reminded the members of the council that in wake of what happened in Parkland, Florida, you see a lot of calls, and especially us, we see a lot of calls on social media to take action and do something. And I reminded them that they were a part of true legislative action. The Student Advisory Council of Las Cruces Public Schools actually made it onto the record of the New Mexico State Senate saying, we know that these problems could persist in our state, and we even saw it in Aztec, and we want to do something about it. And I reminded them of how proud they should have been of themselves when that memorial passed, because at 16 and 17 years old, they were a part of something that made it to the floor and was approved on the Senate of the state of New Mexico.
Very cool.
Now, I want to get into a little bit more. We continue to talk about the events that happened in Parkland and our response to it. And a consensus among the Student Advisory Council students was that there's no reason for us to automatically assume that the tragic incident that occurred in Parkland or what happened in Aztec couldn't happen to us here in Las Cruces. We like to think we're a very safe community, and that's great. I'm glad that we think that, but there's no reason for us to think and be ignorant to assume that this couldn't happen. With that being said, we need to think forward on this solution. And what the students came up with today was we need to know that there are proper measures and trainings in place at each school in order to address these situations. I'll use myself as an example. In my time in middle school and up until now, my junior year of high school, I know of no procedures in place to address an active shooter situation. Now, I understand we don't want to install fear into the minds of our children and make them think that this is imminent. But on the other hand, it's just as scary to know as a student that there's not a plan in place to address these situations when it happened. A student at Oñate High School, their student body president, brought up the ALICE training that Mr. Shopicum conducted with his staff over winter break, which was a step in the right direction in terms of active shooter preparation at the schools. However, that was just at one school. And we recognize the need for these preparations at all of our schools. Because while we can dwell on the sadness of what happened in Parkland or what we see far too often across the country, we need to have a plan in place to ensure that if that does happen, we can address it right away. And I'm talking all facets of safety, of medical preparation, and mass casualty situations. Anything that would be of importance, we need to address. And I want to work with our local law enforcement options at all levels in order to ensure that our kids feel safe at school and our staff and administrators know exactly how to act. That was the general consensus among the Student Advisory Council, with the exception of those from Oñate High School. Everyone was kind of looking around the room at each other going, I'm not too sure what we would do, and that needs to change. And I'm aware of the email that Dr. Ewing sent to principals all across the district. And I had a meeting the morning after the shooting with Mr. Montoya, and I said, look, here at Centennial, we need to find a solution. We need to have something in place in order to address this. Moving on from that, some other topics discussed in our Student Advisory Council meeting this afternoon is we broke into 2 committees. The plan is to break into 4 committees, but we wanted to do the first 2 in this afternoon's meeting. We broke into a Communications Committee and a Bylaws Committee. The Communications Committee is actually ran by Espen Jaramillo, Mr. Jaramillo's son, who's a sophomore at Centennial, and they are being tasked with spreading the message and the activities of the Student Advisory Council to our local students on social media platforms, keeping in mind the privacy policies that we operate on here in this district. They're looking forward to meeting again on March 13th in our bylaws committee. Andre Gonzalez, who's the past chairman of this council, had a great set of bylaws. However, they're not necessarily reflective of the way we operate today. So our bylaws committee is picking through that. That was their homework. And when we meet again, we're going to take a look at addressing the bylaws to how we operate now. I want to leave you with school highlights. As we always like to do, we want to let you know what's going on, at least at all of our high schools throughout the district. So I'll start with Arrowhead Park. Their National Honor Society, which is the lifeline of that school, is making a big push. They just inducted 112 new members. They've noticed a problem with stress among their underclassmen. So what the National Honor Society has done is they've mobilized a task force of upperclassmen to go in and mentor these underclassmen who are feeling stressed out because of the weight of academics, to work with them and let them know of the solutions that they came up with in their time at Arrowhead. At Centennial, as you saw, our journalism team took first place in state, and it wasn't even close. We had a lot of fun up there. As well as that victory, our student government was named the Platinum Council from the New Mexico Association of Student Councils for the third year in a row, which is the highest honor that you can attain from the organization. At Mayfield High School, they wanted to remind us that this week is National FFA Week, so make sure you're paying attention to what your local chapters are assigning as the days. Tomorrow at Centennial, for example, it's Dress Like a Farmer Day, so I'm going to have to find something. I don't know what I'm going to do. And they participated in the science night at various elementary schools, including Desert Hills Elementary, as a service project, and enjoyed that. At Oñate, their Key Club wrote letters to the victims' families in Parkland, Florida. 39 of their students qualified for HOSA Nationals after competing at the HOSA State Conference, and their student also won Platinum Council of the Year. And at Cruces, they just opened up their new gym for their undefeated #1 ranked basketball team, who, by the way, is amazing. You need to go watch them. I watched the Centennial game, and it was absolutely embarrassing. So we need to cheer them on. I look forward to seeing what they do in the state postseason. And swimming won district for the 16th year in a row. That's all I have for my report this evening, Madam President, and with that, I'll stand for any questions.
Board members, do we have any questions or comments for our Cameron?
Just thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. Congratulations.
Congratulations. We're really proud of you. Dr. Ewing?
So Cameron, we always listen when you talk. I tell you, you could sit in my chair already. So I'm going to look, Tiffany, Heather, Dr. Serrano, if the three of you would schedule an appointment with Cameron on his busy schedule. I'm sure he's booked. What is it, 8:15 to 3? Is that your class schedule?
8:40 to 3:30.
So let's try to let him stay in school. But if you would schedule some time, listening to him, he's saying students don't feel prepared for an active shooter drill. So let's get some ideas, and then let's work with principals and actually conduct some of those drills. So why don't you meet with them?
Yes, sir.
If you think they need to come in front of the entire organization of your students, student advisory organization, and then let us plan something. We'll come back before the board, Madam President, since this is a student-led initiative, give you an update on what we're looking at and see if we can do something that will at least make students feel like they have a plan in case of a safety issue. So Cameron, are you okay to meet with?
Yes, sir, absolutely.
The
And
assistant
thank you for
superintendents and Dr.
putting me in
Serrano?
touch. It's a very pressing issue that I'm happy
Yes.
that we're going to get moving on.
Thank you, Madam President.
Okay, thank you again.
Thank you very much.
Okay. This moves us on to Human Resources and Dr. Serrano.
Madam President, members of the board, Mr. Superintendent, I have 3 items for you tonight. And I guess in tradition, I have the employee report today. I have 2 more items, and I have something to offer starting our next board meeting, and I'll bring it up in a minute. I'm here with our exemplary coordinator, Ms. Wanda Williams, in case you have questions on the process that we're going to discuss in a minute. The certified report for the last month after the last board meeting, we had for certified 18 new offers of employment, 14 resignations, and 10 retirements. And in classified, we have 8 offers of employment, 10 resignations, and 7 retirements. Since I've been here in April, that should sound very traditional, what I've been doing. This kind of report, you've been hearing it for months. But I actually got inspired by Mr. Jaramillo and the restorative justice. That quote that you sent, and I responded. And kudos to Mr. Andres Armijo, because he created that web design where all of us, Mr. Frank, all the principals, all of us in that restorative justice, and I know everybody's welcome to join, that we can post quotes and different things to inspire leadership. I know that's a big thing in our district. So starting our next board meeting, I was thinking of, and I might start with a quote you gave us. I mean, it might be a good one to start with at the next board meeting. Mr. Jaramillo, I'll be bringing a quote or possibly a recognition, going back to, remember, we've been talking about it, I think even Ms. Valdespino alluded to it, customer service, servant leadership. So I think to kind of put a different twist, more of a positive twist to what can be a dry, basically certified, classified report, I thought maybe bringing a different twist. So thank you, we love that quote, and I'll start with that one next month.
Sounds good.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Jaramillo. Okay, the second item is titled Whether to Support the PET for Hard-to-Staff Schools Incentive Stipend. Okay, we had a long discussion last time about this item and the way it came about. And I know Wanda Williams has contacted the PET. We've called to try to get a response as to how is it that we've derived at that data, going from so many employees to 29. And if it's anything like where we're experiencing, at least since I've been here in HR, it's going to be back and forth how you uploaded the data. I know in the testing department, Terry Pinedo has had over 200 employees whose data, and it continues to come in, has been erroneous, has not been proper, so it's affected the ratings. And that also needs to be looked upon for the future as far as our budget, because just recently we keep getting reports that are getting corrected. More power to the employee, the teacher, whose report is being corrected, and now the teacher's going to level 2, level 3. So we have to go to Mr. Ed Ellison, and you have to adjust their pay and give them back their $10,000 that we owe them for the. So those are things that are coming up. So we're trying to get connected back to this issue, the hard-to-staff stipend. Trying to get some answers as to how we derive going from 100 employees to 29, or how did we come up with that number? We haven't gotten a response yet to be able to come here in front of you to give you that update. I know Wanda's very familiar with the process, and she's here with me. Mm-hmm. But basically, and how did it come about that we brought it to you at the last board meeting? I didn't bring that up last time, but I'll bring it up to you. And rightfully so. Employees get an email from PET and from HR. And I would do the same thing if they would do that to HR, like 3 HR directors across the state get a stipend. Well, I would probably go to a meeting in the state and talk to my colleague HR directors and say, hey, look, I got this stipend. And they would be, well, how come I didn't get it? Well, this is what happened here in Las Cruces, New Mexico, and LCPS. These employees, rightfully so, they get these emails. They print their award letter for $5,000, $7,500, or $10,000. They go, they print it, and they go walking around campus showing it to everybody, not bragging, but hey, they're very happy that they got this money. And why not? I mean, and some of these people, and I'll go into that in a minute when we go into the next item, actually it's turned out a blessing. They needed the money. There were some emergencies that came up, and maybe this is the blessing that they needed. But so we brought it up to you because those people started emailing HR. Well, I have 25 years as a bilingual teacher. How come I'm not getting this stipend? And I've been very successful at this low-performing school, and my kids are. So anyway, this discussion started coming about, which is the reason that we brought it to you from the beginning last time to begin with. Okay? So moving forward, this item this item, whether to support, the item is that going to be proposed is the board going to vote whether to support the Pet Hard to Staff Schools Initiative stipend moving forward. There's already an application to do this for next year. And we already found out that it's very divisive in that sense that a lot of teachers are asking, why not me? Okay, why not me? How come I'm not getting that stipend? Because I'm working very hard and I'm staying late and I'm working weekends and I'm volunteering and very all deserving, rightfully so. So the first item that we're going to bring up to you, because you've heard enough about this issue, but I don't have the PET's responses to how they derived at these 29 teachers for a total of $233,877.50, which is a lot of money. So, but the first item is for you to basically a motion. There's a motion for you to vote whether you're going to support it moving forward. Because what happened in the past, it's approved. The teachers already got their emails. They already got their acceptance letter. Actually, they were waiting for that stipend actually on February 15th. And I'll go into that in a minute for the next item.
Okay.
So at this time, if you want to take that on.
So then, board members, I think this was discussed the last time at the meeting that I was not at. And so when I came back and we worked on this agenda, I told Dr. Ewing that I did not support the stipend or the incentive. And it's not because I don't care about the teachers. It's not that. It's the fact that we don't know how they pick these teachers, or they're basing it on the school grade or their testing or whatever, and then it keeps changing. We don't have the information. They have not informed us how they do it, as Dr. Serrano has said. So I'm going to go ahead and unless somebody has a comment right now, or we can have a discussion after we make a motion. I will entertain a motion to not support the Public Education Department process for hard-to-staff school incentive stipend for the following year.
I'd like to move on to that motion.
Okay, so we have a first from Mr. Jaramillo and a second from Mr. Castro. Does anyone have any discussion before we vote?
I do. I just I want everybody to understand that it's not because we don't support it, and that we don't want teachers to get awards, it's because it's not equitable. Everybody works hard. And so because of that, we don't feel that there should be 29 teachers receiving awards and the rest of them not. So for that reason, I do not support it.
Anyone else have a comment before we vote?
I would like to comment.
Sure.
It's very upsetting that the PED would not take the time to explain how they arrived at these 29 people. And we certainly know there are hundreds of other people who are certainly deserving of recognition, financial recognition. At the same time, I'm not really comfortable taking $233,000 away from people, even though I really don't support the whole process. I assume this money is coming from the PED. It's not coming out of our operational money.
It's a grant from the PED, correct.
I am not going to support the motion, even though I fully understand the motion, and I find it very upsetting, but I cannot, in good conscience, take $233,000 out of the pockets of our staff.
Mr. Frank, let me explain that there's two parts to it.
Right.
This motion is to not support it in the future.
Right.
Going forward.
Oh.
Going forward.
Oh, I misunderstood
The
that.
next item is for the
And
current.
the next item is
for
payment.
For the current one.
Oh, I've got to start reading more carefully.
Does anyone else have comments? Yes, Mr. Jaramillo.
I do. Mr. Frank, I just want to let you know that if that was the case, I would have been in your shoes as well, as not to support that type of motion. I don't think that was ever on the table, but I would have been thinking the exact same way as you. I have a couple of comments. One, I'm concerned with the grant and how this money is to come. I'm unsure that this money has actually been funded or how it's been funded. So I think that this money could potentially come out of our district money if it wasn't funded correctly through legislation. Correct me if I'm wrong.
I can answer that question. The PED has already released that money to the district, and we're ready to issue that money to the employees. We were ready on the 15th. We postponed that. I did email all the employees to let them know there was a postponement pending approval, and they really appreciated the update. And I did let them know that as soon as I had another update, I would give them a new update. And
perfect. That was
yes,
my concern
the
earlier.
money, they're
That's
ready
changed.
to be sent to the employees. Correct.
Okay.
The other comment I have, Madam
Sorry,
President,
Mr.
is
Lemon, can I-
yes.
Before
Oh,
I
sure.
forget, Madam President, if I may, so I'm going to call on Mr. Ellison. We're going to do a drawdown of the funds, and Mr. Ellison, will you explain, are we going to draw down all funds at one time, or are we going to draw down monthly as we pay this out?
Any of the awards that we get from PED, whether it's or in general, they are done on a reimbursement basis. And so very few of them will we receive the money up front. We have already received the award. It's an obligation to fund as long as we comply with the requirements on PED's part. And so that's already been processed, approved by the board, we budgeted it. And so PED has the obligation to fund this as if we comply with it. And given the fact that we have submitted the information, they've selected the individuals, I don't see any reason why they would not fund this money, but it would be on a reimbursement basis, just like the other awards that we receive.
So if you could keep this on your calendar, if we could, between now and the end of the year, just update the board at each work session on where we are on that reimbursement. Just so we'll continue to let you know that those reimbursements are coming. I'm guessing they'll be in your financial report, that
They will, and
359
as
page
superintendent,
report.
I'll make sure to highlight those and give you an update as
That would be
stats
great.
until it's fully,
That would be great. Mr. Jaramillo, does that
Yes,
meet with your
thank you.
approval?
Yes.
Mr.
I just want to say a couple of things. I'm still concerned with the public education department's intentionality of circumventing the process and going around. We used to say local control. I want to take that word out. I went to a wonderful seminar, wonderful training, and they said, you know what? It's no longer local control. It's ownership. And so I want to change that word, and it's not local control. We don't want to control anything, but we want to own it. And so, I'm still concerned with the PED circumventing the system. And the words hard to staff school incentive stipend is another word for merit pay. And so I went on record in saying that I don't support merit pay. And this is exactly what this is with the new title. And so, Madam President, I stand with in support of this.
Okay.
Can we just restate the motion so I'm clear what I'm voting on here?
Okay, I will, but let me have,
Yeah.
do you have anything to add, Mr. Costa?
Just, Madam President, that I am concerned about the denial of local control, and I'm also very concerned about the morale issues that this thing will arise. So, yeah, definitely I am against and I am for the motion.
And I wanted to mention that there already is a hard-to-staff stipend. It's 27195. This is something that we have given to teachers over the years, have we not? It seems like to me there is a grant or a line item that's called hard-to-staff stipend.
Madam President, that's correct. We've received this for, I think this is the third year.
Right.
And it was originally meant for hard to staff, mostly STEM-related positions for retention and recruitment. This year, it has added these other components, and the amounts have changed. So these components being related to school grades and
They added bilingual and special education.
special education, and then the amounts of the actual stipends has changed this year.
And Dr. Ewing had told me that that there were a couple of staff members that applied for this, but I distinctly remember talking to the superintendent at the time and telling him that I did not agree with it, and I don't think I was the only board member that was in agreement with it. I'm sure we did not actually vote on this, but I remember discussing it with the superintendent, and we were not in favor of it at the time. So, and it's precisely for the reason of morale that we were not for it then, as we are not for it now. So then I will restate the motion, if that's okay.
Thank you.
I will entertain a motion to not support the public education department process for hard-to-staff school incentive stipend.
Going forward, right?
Yes, going forward.
Going forward, and I moved the motion.
But I think
Okay.
we have a first and a second.
Yes,
Right. So-
and you were the first, Mr.
Yes, I was
Jaramillo,
the first.
and Mr. Castro is the second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So we do not support it going forward. Okay? And go ahead, Dr. Serrano.
Thank you. So with that motion, HR will not submit any paperwork this coming year in April. It's already open for next year, so we will
Okay.
not submit for next year. We'll move to item number 3, whether to authorize payment process for the stipend for the one for last year that's already in place. And as much as we talked about the future and the analogy, going back to Mr. Jaramillo, that you used at the last board meeting, it's like at your school, if you give only half the kids, I think that's the analogy you used at the last board meeting, half of them get ice cream and half of them don't, well, then the other half say, well, I deserve ice cream too.
While they're looking at them.
Right, while you're looking at them. So,
Yep.
but moving forward, and I think this is what Mr. Frank was alluding to, doing right by these 29 employees that already were notified by PET and by HR of their approval, and getting, I didn't bring them, I'm not gonna give names or anything, but just get some of them emotional about the fact that one of them told me that one employee that they have a family emergency and they really could use this money and it was like a blessing. So these people have already been awarded. So this next item, and there is a memorandum of understanding created by NEA and LCPS, and thanks to Gabe Hawkes, Wendy Alverson, NEA, and Mr. Hawkes working on this MOU that lets us know, and I can read it for you if you want, but basically what it says is that we're in agreement, if you vote on it, that these 30 employees that waited actually were going to get this money on the 15th, that we're going to do right by them and give them the money that they were expecting and that they rightfully have already accepted moving forward. And that's kind of what you were alluding to, that this has already been awarded, and there's an understanding between NEA and LCPS administration that we're going to do right by these 29 employees that really are waiting now for a postponement of their stipend. Okay?
Okay.
So the proposed motion is to pay 29 LCPS teachers stipends of the amounts of $5,000, $7,500, $10,000 for a total amount of $233,887.50.
Okay. So then, do we have any questions or comments? Yes,
I have one question.
Mr. Jaramillo.
Madam President, Dr. Serrano, the reason why NEA is involved is because of the bargaining agreement, correct?
Yes, it was mentioned that when I emailed the employees, I told them it was postponed due to a board approval and the NEA bargaining agreement. And NEA met with us and came to the agreement that we got to do right by these 29 employees.
So correct me if I'm wrong, Dr. Serrano, when NEA is involved in such a thing like this, the collective bargaining agreement is skewed a little bit. And is that the reason why for the MOU? And when PED awarded this money, this circumvented that collective bargaining agreement, correct?
It's my understanding that this PET grant was given to these employees and it was going to bypass a bargaining agreement.
That's my
So when we got it, and it didn't go through the board, so we brought it to you last time, and we're bringing it back to you. It was important for us, for NEA, to be involved, because it was already mentioned to me before the meeting that these teachers, there was a blame on NEA. There was no blame on NEA whatsoever. They're very supportive of their teachers, including these 29. So the memorandum is that we're basically on the same page, and we're together on this, that moving forward, they understand that they're supporting these employees.
Thank you. And my point was just that process was.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. It bypassed the bargain. Correct.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Correct.
Madam
Yes,
President,
Ms. Dahlman.
I just had a clarification, needed a clarification. You said that the PED did not answer you in regards to, my question is, how did they figure out who was going to get 10,000 and who was going to get 775 and who was going to get 5?
That question also, but also the question is how did they derive at the 29 names that they came up with?
100 to
Along with that other question about why did each of them get those individual stipends?
Right.
And it's not that PED didn't answer when we talked to them that they didn't have answers for us. It's just that we left messages and they have yet to return our calls.
They have not returned our
That's-
request.
So we
That's
don't
right.
know why one
We'll
merit
continue to explore that and continue trying to
10,000
get
and
some
the other
answers.
one.
Yeah, that's what I meant by that. They haven't communicated back. We left messages through the HR department. That's
Okay,
Madam President, legal counsel would like to.
yes.
If I may, Madam President, I want to suggest that when the motion is made, if the motion is to authorize payment of the hard-to-staff schools incentive stipend to teachers for this school year, that you add to that motion and also approve the memorandum of understanding with NEA to effectuate the stipend.
Okay,
So approve the memorandum of understanding. Is it memorandum of understanding or memorandum of agreement? Understanding?
understanding.
Okay, memorandum of understanding with NEA to effectuate the stipend.
NEA to effectuate the
Stipend, the stipend.
Okay, I think we're ready to go on this one.
And so, thank you to NEA for
Yes.
working with us and agreeing. This was all done outside the collective bargaining agreement, so we want our teachers to know.
And this emphasizes what happens when you don't have ownership of something.
Yes, local control.
How you have to fix things so that they move forward. And please apologize to the teachers for having to make them wait, but all this needed to happen first.
Yes.
Okay.
Madam President, if
Yes.
the board would allow, I want to offer NEA the opportunity. Do you want to read the memoranda of agreement? Do you want Gabe up there with you? He likes to get up there, so.
Well, we're going to do a duet here in a
Oh,
little
okay.
bit. Yeah.
Okay.
This memorandum of understanding is made and entered in between the LCPS and NEA Las Cruces pursuant of Article 2B, General Provisions, Part B, Agreement Control. Wow. And Article 20, Compensation, Part A, Salaries, for the purpose of permitting the payment of hard-to-sell stipends awarded and funded by the New Mexico Public Education Department during the 2017-18 school year. Whereas LCPS and NEA Las Cruces understand that the PED has issued awards to certain teachers chosen by the PED who met PED criteria for the New Mexico Public Education Department STEM and Hard-to-Staff Teacher Initiative Grant. Whereas LCPS and NEA Las Cruces understand no LCPS monies will be used to pay these stipends, and instead that LCPS will be reimbursed for the total cost of the stipends by the PED. Whereas LCPS and NEA Las Cruces understand that under PED criteria, stipends may not be awarded to any employees other than licensed classroom teachers. Whereas both LCPS and NEA Las Cruces believe that this method of compensation is not precedent setting for the Las Cruces Public Schools, and in future desire that any stipend negotiation be done in partnership with both parties and be based upon a mutually agreed upon set of criteria. It is therefore agreed that for 1 year only, school year 2017-18, LCPS and NEA Las Cruces will permit the payment of the hard-to-staff stipends awarded and funded by the PED. This MOU will terminate on July 1st, 2018.
Thank you. And Ed, let me make sure, we will have all the teachers paid out by July 1st?
Yeah, that's correct. We will do that. Yeah, I believe we already have the schedule for payments, and Wanda has worked on that. And I think we'll have all that taken care of by June 30th.
Okay.
If we start, get it in tomorrow, or we start tomorrow?
They're about to vote, so give us a second and you can go
Okay.
push the buttons on your computer if the board gives us permission.
Thank you, Ms. Albertson.
Thank you, Wendy.
So then we'll go ahead. I will entertain a motion to authorize payment of hard-to-staff school incentive stipend to LCPS teachers for the 2017-18 school year, and also approve the MOU with the Memorandum of Understanding with NEA to effectuate the stipend.
I'll move that.
Okay.
Second.
We have a first from Mr. Frank and a second from Ms. Dahlman. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So it passes. And thank you, Dr. Serrano and Edwanda, for working on this. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Stand for question.
Okay.
We're good.
Thank you,
I
sir.
don't know if we have any more questions. I think you've answered all of them. Thank you. As much as is possible. Okay, we move on to instruction, and Erlinda's not here, but we have a discussion.
Dr. Wendy Miller Tomlinson, Madam President, will be leading the instruction division.
Okay.
Erlinda, if you're watching, I hope you're drinking soup and taking care of yourself. And
She's probably asleep.
It was not my germs that transferred.
Good evening, Madam President, members of the board, Mr. Superintendent. So tonight we would like to just have a brief discussion of the process for admitting students to the Arrowhead Park schools. Previously, we have been able to accept pretty much all students that applied. Now, because of our post-secondary partners and the limited capacity that they have, we are having to cap our enrollment at the two schools at 600. So I have with me the principal of Arrowhead Park Schools, Jennifer Amos, who is going to, I thought she ran out the back door, who is going to just give an overview of the enrollment and application process. So Jennifer.
So, Madam President, as Jennifer's coming forward, I just want to remind us it's 8:30 p.m. and principals in high schools start at about 5:30 a.m. So thank you for staying tonight, and thank you for coming to speak.
Oh, Madam President, members of the board, Mr. Superintendent, thank you for having me here tonight. And as Dr. Miller Tomlinson said, we have been asked to cut back on our ninth grade enrollment to 150 students, which that's where we were last year. In the past, since we opened the medical academy, we were able to take 200 students. So our discussion is framed around the fact that we have over 200 applications. I'm so excited about that. However, I'm so sad that we have to figure out a way to tell some students that they're not coming to Arrowhead. So we began the recruitment process really in December, when we deliver a flyer, an information flyer, to every 8th grade student in our district. And so I'm usually in charge of printing those. And we know that all students won't opt to come to Arrowhead, but we want every family to have that opportunity. On that flyer, we announce our information meetings, and so we conduct information meetings throughout the district or throughout the community so that we can address comments, concerns, tell people what our school is really about. At that time, we have upheld our mission, and we still are over 50% of our students are first in their family to attend college, and we actively pursue that population. So after the information meetings, we are a school of choice. Students do not fill out a transfer request, they fill out an application. So once we receive those applications, we started tonight, we meet with every single family. And the intent of this meeting is to ensure that parents have time to ask us any final questions they have about Arrowhead. We have a few questions for our students so that we can make sure that Arrowhead, we help families make the choice. You know, is this the right school for your child? We reiterate at that time that we do not have competitive athletics. We do not have performing arts programs. So during that process, some students withdraw their application. There is misinformation out there about the athletics that yes, you will be able to participate, but we're not doing that. So the family meetings also are another way for us to start building that community of our future students. Unlike other early college high schools in the nation, we do not have a GPA requirement, and we do not have a college entrance exam for our 8th graders. So we're really proud of that. So the discussion that we're seeking tonight, we have over 200 applicants. We are continuing with our interview process or family meeting process. In the past, in 2011, we had to use a random selection process or the lottery selection, and then that resulted in a waiting list of 30 students. We have not used that process since that time, but we're asking for your input on our selection process for Arrowhead students.
Can you talk to them about what you would like to use in your selection process? And then could we make clear to the board, so why are we asking for there to be a limit, and where is that coming from? Because it's not coming from the administration here, it's coming from NMSU with their ability to have enough instructors to actually teach those courses to the students when they get older. So can you go through the instrument you have that you're thinking of using?
So in our student application, we have a letter of interest, we have a parent comment section, we have teacher recommendations, and we do have a rubric that we use to rate the letter of interest and the teacher recommendations. We also have a rubric for the interview, and we also award bonus points for our target population in order to sort the applications. And really what we're looking for is the student's sincere desire to complete 6 years of education in 4 years. So if they're willing and they express that true interest in Arrowhead, we know that we can help them get there regardless of their academic background coming in.
Okay. Board members, do we have any questions or comments?
I had to say,
Yes.
what's the percentage of rejections that you have?
We typically are able to take 95% of all applicants.
Out of 200, you would take about 95% normally.
Typically, yes.
But this year, we're going to take, you're looking at
The college has asked us to take 150, so that means 165 to me. But,
Okay.
you know, 170.
Mr. Frank, are you approving of that math there?
Sure. Yeah,
So
that's
that-
perfectly good.
That does mean that there's 35 families who could possibly end up in front of us and express their concern that they didn't get in. And we want to make the board aware of this before we initiate the process. And I apologize to the board. This is really a work session discussion. We're doing it tonight only because the process needs to start next week. Am I right?
Well, we actually started interviews or family meetings tonight at Camino and Lynn.
We wanted to get in front of you as quickly as possible.
So what would you like to do?
I would like to take all of the students that meet our criteria, which we don't have GPA or testing criteria, but students who are really interested in coming to Arrowhead, and do the random selection from that group of students. Some students during the family meeting process, and families will ask final questions, and sometimes they just change their mind and withdraw their application. In addition, if students are struggling right now in middle school with D's and F's, this is really a positive thing for the middle schools, because we tell students that we're going to watch, we're going to do grade reports for the next few weeks. We do have a minimum GPA requirement for dual credit participation, which is a 2.0. So we don't want to set students up for failure if they have an academic record of failure throughout middle school. But we also know and are champions for those who really make a commitment to changing their ways.
Mr. Castro?
Yeah, Madam President, could you use it maybe in a lottery of some kind to maybe help address it?
And like the middle schools, I was calling it random selection because That's the word Dr. Miller told me to use. She likes it better than lottery. So,
But it is a
so
lottery.
yes, it is a lottery.
And so are we hearing from the board you prefer that over a scoring rubric? And
I
then-
do.
Yes? Am I know I cannot poll the board because this is not a vote, this is a discussion. So I think all we can do is ask for your comments.
I have a couple of questions. The university, NMSU, is the one that's asking us to limit the population.
Yes. From
It's not-
200 ninth grade students down to 150 to maintain. If you recall, when we opened the medical academy, our target number was 750 total, and now they would like us to keep that at 600.
Well, that's kind of a change in the middle of the game, sort of. It's not DACC that's requesting this.
Yes, it is. DACC. Yes, yes.
Which is Doña Ana Community College.
Yes, ma'am.
Which we call NMSU.
Well, it's still two different entities. That's why I was asking.
And Doniana provides the majority of the classes for
Yes,
us.
Yes, that's my understanding, because we sit on the advisory, and that's why I'm asking.
Oh.
We sit on the advisory board.
Yes, and is it because they have lost so much funding?
It is.
Yes, so we need to consider that as well.
Yes.
Did you have any other questions?
I did. I just, for what it's worth, I want to say, at my school, we have a process of a lottery system for early pre-K and pre-K for 3 and 4 year olds. They must meet a criteria. Basically, it's just age by September 1st, very similar to public schools. But one of the things I don't like about the lottery system is that oftentimes, by the luck of the draw, we miss the child that actually needs to be there. And so, because it's in statute that this is how we have to do it, this is the way we do it. But I think I would prefer to do some kind of a rating scale. So because there's somebody on the other side of you, there's somebody that's put some work into it, there's somebody that you can actually make a connection to, and it seems like that you're able to select based on good information on the children that are going to be attending. So, on my side, there's oftentimes a child that may not be able to afford to come to our school get missed, where a child, because of a random drawing from that a parent that could pay to come to our school gets a free spot, and this child gets left out. And so that's my only concern with the lottery system. I know you're going to have to do what needs to be done, but I just wanted to say that sometimes there's probably not a right way to do it. And there's benefits to both, but I just wanted to say that we miss children that need to be in our programs because of the lottery system.
In your estimation and your previous experience, would you say that all 200 would actually qualify?
98% of them, yes.
98%, so,
yes.
yeah. That's
And so we really do want to uphold our mission and make sure that we don't eliminate the first generation college attendees. So if we could do the random selection following the family meeting process, I don't know.
Madam President, if I may, Jennifer, let me engage you in a couple of questions. So you select the students in the ninth grade. Ninth grade, they're going to be, you select them in the eighth grade.
Yes,
In the
sir.
ninth grade, they're in your building.
Yes.
Are they in only courses taught by our faculty that we control in the ninth grade?
Yes, 9th and 10th.
And 10th. So if I were to authorize you to select the 200 or whatever number, and then I would have 2 years for us to work with DACC in order to say we went above the number.
Brilliant solution.
So
I like it.
would you be, so you're amenable to that? And then that'll give us some
Well, there's
time
a
to work with them?
few other problems that have
Tell us.
have emerged. This semester, the college called us suddenly after we had already built our master schedule, and they capped all of our courses taught by our teachers at 24. So
And that was a university
we have a
requirement?
meeting. We have a meeting next week to address this, but
We're doing
our
that.
teachers, we pay their salaries, but Doniana wants to dictate the student numbers in those classes.
Maybe if you could bring that up, and then, Madam President, if you and Mr. Jaramillo so feel, you could bring up in your next meeting as well. We are giving, help me with the number, I might get Ed or Dr. Wendy? What money did we put aside this year to pay? So we did set aside $60,000 of our
Credit.
own money to pay instructors who are teaching courses for dual credit. I'm certainly amenable as we build the budget. If we had to put a little more away, we could. My only concern is if DACC is going to tell us we simply don't have the instructors on staff.
I think that, and I'm sorry to interrupt, is that since we sit on the advisory, we get the full financial picture for DACC. And so they are capping it for Gadsden as well, more severely than they are for us here in Las Cruces. I think that it would be beneficial to meet with Dr. Scott and find out what the true limit would be, and perhaps Dr. Ewing and you, Ms. Amos, can meet with her to discuss this and finalize this. And maybe it won't be all 200, but maybe we can get closer to a better number.
Meet them in the middle, that would be.
Yes, I think,
that would be
let's
cool.
negotiate that difference and see if we can, without ruining their plans for the future as well, because
course.
as they were the hardest hit last year. Higher education was the one that took the biggest blow, and they have not recovered yet. So I don't want to say, go ahead and get all 200 and then, really mess things up for everybody else. We have to be fair.
We might, once we finish the family meeting process, we'll let the superintendent know what our total number is at that time before we proceed.
And then we'll reach out for a meeting with Dr.
But we have to, we're supposed to let all the students know by March 2nd because, and we did inform families that, depending on the number of total applications, if they wanted an in-district transfer, if they weren't coming to Arrowhead, so they needed to do that process also. That's just another reason families might come
And
downtown.
when will you finish all of the family meetings by?
2 weeks, so we'll be ready to let people know by March 2nd.
So let's you and I just connect on email tomorrow, and we'll email Dr. Scott and give her ask for some dates on her calendar. And Madam President, if it meets the approval of the board, we'll come back at the next board work session, March 6th. At least we can tell you what we did.
Right.
The
That's
decision will have been made. And as long as, our main goal tonight was to allow the board just some time to give us some input, and for you to understand there's a possibility we may not be able to take every student.
That's fine. I think we need to work with DACC. on
Yes,
this,
of course.
okay?
Yes, ma'am.
I think post-secondary funding is looking up, though, so.
It probably is, but they're still living under last year's
budget.
extremism,
Madam President?
Yes.
And help me remember, and Ms. Amos may know a little bit more, this also affects how they take those dual credit courses, correct?
Yes.
Because it's now changed. Can you just talk a little bit so my other board members can understand that a little bit?
In 9th and 10th grade, it's Las Cruces Public School teachers teaching, delivering the instruction, teachers that are qualified. The superintendent has also approved. We do have teachers in graduate programs that the district's paying for. This is a very common practice in Texas, that districts provide that graduate. They have to have 18 graduate hours. All of our teachers have master's degrees, but they have to have 18 college credit hours in the content that they teach. So right now, Las Cruces Public Schools is paying for the staff on just over 50% of all associates awarded. And we've been fortunate for all of our students. About 85% of our students have been graduating with those for the last 4 years. So we are pretty much paying for that now with the new adjunct that we're paying for. They're still not making money off of our students because it's cheaper to pay the teacher. But there's just more to it than checking off a list of courses. We have this plan to strategically release the students to the college instructors. We do that really in the spring of 11th grade. Students can be completely off of our campus in a full college schedule. So spring of 11th and most of 12th.
Thank you.
Okay, well, good luck. We wish you good luck.
Thank you. Good
Thank
job.
you. All right.
All right, go home and get ready for tomorrow. 5:30 comes early.
Okay. Mr. Ellison?
Good evening, Madam President, members of the board, Mr. Superintendent. I think we could use some of that yoga stretching about now.
I know, it's true.
Two items to start with on the for donation, and as Ms. Amos, the school principal, we have two other school principals sitting in the audience this evening with a long day waiting for their donations to be approved. So the first one I'd like to present to you for approval is the marquee for the sign at the marquee for the Sonoma Elementary School, donated by Citizens Bank in the amount of $18,457.08. And Ms. Galaz is here if you have any questions for her on that. And I believe in the packet there's a picture that's kind of similar to what we've done in the past.
Board members, do you have any questions on this donation? My only comment on it is that I looked at the cost of well, it doesn't say, but the school is responsible for maintaining the electricity that it costs to run it. I know that fluorescent signs is the one that has put in the bid. I like to, maybe not this time, but perhaps, or maybe this time, to ask about making it solar, so it doesn't cost the school anything. Yes. And I know that's not what they bid, and it's a little late for that, but it might be good to inquire.
Something we can look into, yes.
Yes, that would be great.
We'll do that.
Because you see the sign, you see our city lights have a solar panel on top of it. What do you think, Mr. Hawkes?
Yes, ma'am, Madam President, members of the board. So I will look into that and find out I'll cost them out and find out what's available out there. I know we've had some, I know at Mesa Middle School, we had some solar lights in our parking lot.
Right.
And so I will bring that back to the board.
I'm just trying to save money for the school. It's tough. Okay?
Absolutely, Madam President. And I think with Citizens Bank, they have an existing relationship with fluorescent signs, but I think we
Right.
can look into, because we do have quite a few in the district, that if
Right.
that's something that we could convert to with our solar
think it would
projects
be
coming up,
wonderful.
it may be something that we could use as a trial
Okay.
on one or two signs to see
I
how that works.
appreciate your looking into it. So if we don't have any questions, I will entertain a motion to approve the donation from Citizens Bank for a marquee for Sonoma Elementary.
So moved.
Ms. Dahlman and Mr. Castro, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, so good luck with your sign. Thank you for being here.
Then we also have a donation, several donations for a marquee at Highland, and Ms. Howard is in the audience here. And so with Highland there, I don't know if you saw the picture, it's a little bit bigger than the rest. It's on Highway 70, so it's right off the highway, so they're going to get a lot of coverage. But they do have a donation from Citizens Bank, which is what we're seeking approval for $16,000 towards the cost of that. And I also want to mention that Campus Photography will donate $3,500, the PTO will donate $2,500, and then the remaining is going to come from fundraising activities at Highland.
Okay.
Any questions on that?
Any questions? Okay, so I will entertain a motion to approve the donation from Citizens Bank for a marquee for Highland Elementary School.
So moved.
I'll second.
Okay, Mr. Frank and Mr. Jaramillo second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, so that passes.
Thank you, Madam President.
Congratulations on your new sign. And thank you to the businesses that are collaborating on that sign.
Yes.
Thank you. So the next item is the second quarter report. This is the actuals that are submitted to the Public Education Department for the second quarter ended December 31st, 2017. The report actually that we submit is 3 separate reports: the cash report, the revenue report, and the expenditure report. You do see some of these numbers in our normal monthly board report. On the cash report,
I'd like to point out that we ended, the operational fund had a balance of $31,220,628. In total cash as of December 31st, across all funds was $75,842,005. And this is similar to last year's amounts at this point in time.
Okay. Board members, any questions on the second quarter report?
Okay. The January financial report, this is for the 7 months ended January 31st, 2018. Couple of items to point out. The total expenditures were approximately $90 million, and that is about 49% of the year-to-date budget. And of that, and this is just in the operational fund, was about $90 million, and of that amount, 60% was spent in instruction, about 8.6% in student support services, and 3.6% in instruction support services, about 1.2 in general administration, 6.5 in school administration, and 3.6 in central services, and about 15.6 in operation and maintenance of plant, and then some miscellaneous items after that that are small. Our biggest two items that we typically see are instruction and operation and maintenance of plant, which is the insurance and utilities and maintenance of the facilities themselves. And so that's just kind of some highlights to that report. Any questions on that?
Any questions in January? Okay, we move on.
And looking at that, it's very similar so far through January to what we were at last year.
Right.
The next item is the Finance Advisory Committee meeting minutes for the meeting held on January 18th, 2018. Several discussions occurred, some of which were regarding the cash balance, budget adjustment request, pricing bids for food commodities, property dispositions, and vendor payments. And those were approved at our last meeting, so I stand for any questions on the minutes from January 18th.
No, but we do appreciate them.
The last item I have is the audit for the fiscal year ended June 30th, 2017. And this year we changed auditors. We went from Moss Adams, who we had for 6 years, to Clifton Larson Allen, a very reputable firm, a national firm with a regional office in Albuquerque. We started this process last May, and we're finishing it tonight. So it takes a long time to get through an audit. The audit has multiple components. We have a financial statement audit, the single audit for federal awards, as well as a report on internal controls over financial reporting. And so I'd like to take a moment to recognize the audit committee, the two board members who sit on that, Mr. Frank and Mr. Castro. Appreciate your time. We had a community member, Ms. Patricia Johnson. She's a retired superintendent who we enjoy having on our audit committee, and to the finance staff, especially, who had worked very diligently for months on end with many requests and overtime to complete the audit on time. Anytime you change auditors, it's difficult to meet those deadlines, and we were able to do that. So I'd like to thank the finance staff as well. We did receive an unqualified opinion, which is the highest opinion, meaning that all of our financial statements were presented in material compliance with generally accepted accounting principles. And so with that, I would like to stand for any questions on the audit.
And board members, do we have any questions?
Madam President, I don't have any questions, but this could have been a course study.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
A semester study.
Sure.
For sure.
Absolutely.
Well, everybody should take it home tonight and, read it before you go to bed.
Read exam in the morning.
Lots of interesting
Okay.
things.
I did read the findings pages, so I did do my homework, and I am satisfied with the results.
Thank you.
Thank you for your work.
Madam President, if I may, if I could just say to Mr. Ellis and his entire team, not all of us get a 100-page report on our work every year, and so I just want to give kudos to you and the entire team back there. This is a beautiful job. And as I'm reading this, if the only big things that we can see is a $46 check was not deposited within 24 hours and a couple of other items, I think you've done pretty well.
I think
So-
there was a little overpayment on somebody's paycheck also. Huh?
Oh, yeah, that, I did see that. We do need,
Those are just blips, right?
and we have implemented, just for the board to know, we did verify that every individual receiving a paycheck actually is living and working. We asked them to meet us in person with an ID. And so if you would take back to your entire staff, how appreciative we are. And as cumbersome as this reading is and will be for some of us, I think it's an A report, and I really appreciate your work. Thank you, Madam President.
Okay, we move on to operations.
Good evening, Madam President, members of the board, and Mr. Superintendent. I got a couple of items this evening. My first item is discussion on creating an advisory, a bond advisory oversight committee. And so I'm bringing this to you this afternoon, this evening for discussion. My thoughts is that this committee would be the group that works with staff. So as we go through the bond, our initial timeline is by April, by the April work session, that we would have kind of a preliminary timeline for the 4 years of our bond projects. But this group would actually just help advise as we work through this, and in the sense of communication and transparency, that we're all working together and sharing information. So my suggestion is that maybe each board member might want to have 1 or 2 citizens appointed to this committee at our next meeting, but I bring it to you for discussion and stand for questions.
Okay, well, this is something that we've never had before, and I really think it's a good idea. And I think that having citizens keep a watchful eye on that bond money is a step in the right direction. Board members, do you have any questions or comments on this?
No, I think it's a good idea.
Yeah,
Okay.
good idea.
All right, so then if we're ready, I will entertain a
Oh,
motion.
no, Madam President, we only listed this as discussion, so we could come back
Oh, I'm
next.
moving ahead and it's not even, sorry.
But I do want to ask the board, we were thinking
Sorry.
to ask each board member to appoint 2 citizens and the superintendent 1. We don't want to leave the Student Advisory Council out, and so I want to ask the board if you're amenable to that as well, having
Absolutely.
a student advisor there.
Madam President.
And then
That's a good idea.
if the board feels that this is a worthwhile process, we will bring it back as an action item.
Okay,
And then we would like to ask, after we approve this, then we would have to come back in front of you and ask you to publicly name your
okay.
citizens, so you would have time to have conversations.
I have one chosen already.
Okay, so if you're okay with this idea, we're going to move forward.
Yes,
And then
please.
from the staff perspective, our goal is to get in front of them with what we're doing with bond money before we come to you, and then be able to give you a report from what the advisory committee recommended to us. So it's an extra layer of oversight on our part. It'll be a little more work, but I think in the end, we'll all feel better with the amount of oversight for the $50 million. Thank you.
Very good. And now we move on to the next item.
Yes,
I
ma'am. So-
apologize.
I'm going to ask my colleague, Miss Wendy Alberson, and fellow NEA member to come up. So our next item is the approval of our 2017-18 negotiations with NEA Las Cruces. And this is just to bring closure to a lot of discussion and hard work that we've collaboratively worked through since June, I believe. But it's been extremely productive, and we've had some great discussions, and I believe moving forward we've created a different perspective as how we're going to do this with our budget process to make sure that we change our timelines up, so we're able to hopefully in the future get our negotiations done before contracts go out and make sure our employees get what they deserve. Well, I shouldn't say deserve. They deserve a whole lot more, but get what we can agree upon. So, and I just wanted to share the stage with Wendy tonight and offer her an opportunity to say a few words.
So we do have a tentative agreement with the district, and I know we were going to talk about this, so forgive us for not rehearsing our duet. But we are going to write a joint letter to kind of explain the bargaining and what our employees can expect. We are coming back soon to the table for training and hopefully facilitated bargaining using what we call interest-based bargaining. So if you will bear with me, I'll read you just a little bit about what interest-based bargaining is. Interest-based bargaining focuses on developing mutual beneficial agreements based on shared interests of the parties. Interest-based bargaining is also called win-win or IBB. This process views school board, administrators, and education employees as members of a family with a common cause, caring for the welfare of the children, or our students. IBB, which is usually facilitated by a neutral party, typically produces more satisfactory outcomes than positional or adversarial bargaining, which tends to result in compromise or no agreement at all. Interest-based bargaining is more likely to lead to creative solutions, which can potentially give everyone all of what they want. We are also encouraged about our agreement with the district to commence bargaining before the budget process is complete. All too often, the timing of the district's budget creation process, coupled with the state's spring budget workshop in April, have been major obstacles for bargaining. So we're looking forward to the commitment of the district to come back to the table and approach bargaining in a different way.
Excellent idea. Thank you.
So we're super excited to be working together, and just something interesting. I've grown up through the NEA process. I was a local president, and one of the things that, I'm very competitive, and so one of the things that in my mind bargaining was on the certified end, and then also on the management end as a principal, was it was kind of that win-lose. You get this in your mind that you're competitive and there's something to give, and bargaining is about everybody winning. And what I'm excited about is this interest base is really bringing the interests of all our parties together, which is our staff and students. And I think that we all win when we do that, and it really refocuses our efforts. And we've had a great year. We've worked really hard. We've collaborated. There's been a lot of trust and respect as we've moved through. So excited to get started early.
Great. Good to know.
And with that, absolutely. And so we are asking. Attached is just the agreement, and we've come up with 3 items that we've agreed to moving forward as we bring closure to this session, and that is, as Ms. Albertson spoke of, is writing that joint letter, just explaining kind of where we're at in our process, a full commitment to interest-based bargaining from both parties, and then to resume bargaining hopefully early next month, so we get in line with our budget process and make it happen for staff. So with that, I stand for questions.
Board members, do we have any questions on this?
No
All right.
questions.
Okay, so.
Encouraged by the cooperation.
Yeah.
That's right.
I like the interest-based bargaining. I will entertain a motion to approve the 2017-2018 school year NEA Las Cruces agreement.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Frank and Mr. Castro, and I think, is this a roll call vote? Anyone know? I think we've made it a roll call vote before, so I'm going to ask Mr. Jaramillo to take a roll call vote.
Yes, ma'am. Ms. Dahlman,
Yes.
Mr. Castro,
Yes.
Vice President Frank,
Yes.
President Flores,
Yes,
and I vote yes.
so it passes.
So thank you very much.
Please note, it was a roll call vote. I know Mr. Davis is watching over us.
Absolutely. Thank you, Madam President, members of the board, and Mr. Superintendent. My final item is we have this afternoon with us Ashley Curry and I believe Brian Bird to talk to us about the City of Las Cruces active transportation plan. If you notice in our lobby, they're going to be up for a couple of days, some boards that are very informational. They're going to briefly explain to us what that's about and kind of what the plan's looking at and what it will offer, and then how we can make recommendations to that plan. So with that, hi. I'll turn it over to Ashley and her team and let her introduce her.
And I don't think it's this afternoon, but late at night.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
Madam President and members of the board, superintendent, and members of the community, I appreciate you all staying this late, and we'll try to keep it brief because I know there's more on the agenda and everybody's anxious to get going. My name is Ashley Curry, and I am the Safe Routes to School Program Coordinator for the school district. And my job is to encourage kids to walk walk and ride their bikes to school, to educate them on bike and pedestrian safety issues, and to work with our governmental agencies to ensure that our streets and our infrastructure around the schools is safe and conducive to kids walking and biking to school. So I've worked a lot with the city of Las Cruces, and the plan is there, and the city of Las Cruces has engaged in something called the Active Transportation Plan. They've hired an outside consultant to come in and assess all of our roads and multi-use paths and sidewalks and all the kinds of things that we have in the community, and we'll be making recommendations to the city on what we can do. So why does this pertain to the school board? Because they really have been very generous in looking a lot at our schools and connecting with us on how we can make our routes accessible and fun and safe, and make it the easy choice for kids to be able to get to school. So, I'm going to introduce Srijana Basnat. She is a senior planner with the city. Brian Bird had to end up leaving, but the boards will be up. I'll be here for questions. If any of you have any questions at any point in time, I'm happy to be the liaison between the city and the school district for any questions on the active transportation plan. But as much as anything, everybody in here, community members included, please do give your input, because this is really something that they want input from the entire community on what we can do to make the city as active transportation friendly as possible. So without further time, Srijana Basnat.
Thank you, Ashley. Madam President, members of the board, Mr. Superintendent, thank you for having me here today. Ashley Curry is also on our advisory group for the Active Transportation Plan for the City of Las Cruces. So what the city, and I would like to also appreciate the Superintendent's office sending their Chief of Staff to attend our meetings as well, and thank you for that. So just really quickly, the Active Transportation Plan is really about making Las Cruces a more walkable, bikeable community, and to support healthy and active living. So with that in mind, we do have a planning process that's going to be about a year long, and we encourage, which Ashley kind of already covered, all of you to engage. We have a website called it's www.activelascruces.com. And out there, you're going to see small little quarter cards over there with the survey QR code on it. We would really encourage everybody to take the survey, because we do want to know how you feel about walking and biking in Las Cruces, and that will help inform the plan. So just real briefly, these active modes of transportation are really important because they not only have environmental benefits, they also have economic and social benefits. And so it's really crucial that we start thinking in terms of how to support people in our community who either cannot afford to own a car or choose not to. And that includes seniors who cannot drive for quite a bit of their lifetimes, because more and more we're living longer lives, and we need to become less car dependent, but also school age children, as Ashley mentioned, who here remembers walking and biking to school? So it is a critical part of growing up and being independent. So with that, I'm gonna just cut it short. The boards are out there, and please look through it. It highlights the planning process, and if you have any questions, feel free to email me or call me. My name is Srijana Basnat, and I am the project manager for the city's active transportation plan. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Do you have a card that you could be with us, perhaps? And Dr. Ewing, maybe you could put this website online
Sure.
on the district website, so that
Could you email me? If you could email me the link.
Yes, sir, we
And
will
then
do
if you'll
that.
email me with your contact info, I'll forward it to all board members. Would
Okay,
would
we
that be?
appreciate that very much.
Thank you, that's very generous. We
Thank
appreciate
you, and I
that.
feel terrible. Ashley, I did not walk or bike to school this last year.
It's not too late. We're going tomorrow morning at University Hills.
Give me another date.
Yes, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, ladies. Sorry you had to wait so long. Thank you
Yes,
very much.
thank you. Okay, so this takes us on then to new business for board items, and we're moving to the approval of the superintendent's evaluation as prepared and discussed in executive session. Now, it is late, and but I want to let if any board members have any question or any comments at this point. We have given the superintendent his evaluation, we have discussed it, and he is fully apprised of our opinion of him, et cetera, et cetera. We rated him on a scale of 1 to 5, I think it was, or something like
Yes,
that.
ma'am.
So that is all confidential, but he knows, he has been informed. And so does anyone have any comments before we vote on the evaluation? Okay, everyone's tired. Okay, I will entertain a motion to approve the superintendent's evaluation as prepared and discussed in executive session.
So move.
Mr. Castro and Mr. Frank, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, so that passes. We will now go on to a discussion and possible extension of the superintendent's contract. Do we have any thoughts on this? The tradition is to, how would you say it? You cancel or you rescind, is it? The contract, and then you add a year to it, or you change the date on it. I think that's my understanding of it. And so this is where we are now, and we have a plan. We have discussed it. Dr. Ewing has been informed of it, and board members, do we have any questions or comments on it before we move into that motion? Okay, so then I'm going to go ahead and I move that Dr. Ewing's current contract be amended to end on June 30th, 2018, and that Dr. Ewing be offered a new contract with the term of the new contract to begin on July 1st, 2018, and end on June 30th, 2021, extending it for an additional 2 years rather than 1, which is tradition. All other terms of the new contract shall be the same as the current contract.
I so move.
Okay. And Mr. Jaramillo first, Mr. Castro second, and we will do a roll call on this, please. I should have warned you again that we were going to do this.
No problem, Madam President. Ms. Dahlman,
Yes.
Mr. Castro,
Yes.
Vice President Frank,
Yes.
President Flores,
Yes.
and I vote yes.
So congratulations, Dr. Ewing, you have been extended for 2 years rather than 1.
Thank you very much.
I just wanted to say that we're doing this as a token of showing that we want to continue a sense of stability for the entire district, of us working together. They've changed our election time for the next, board members. I think it will be extending Mr. Frank's and Mr. Castro's by a few months, I think. We don't know yet.
If it's signed by the governor.
If it's signed by the governor. If not, it'll just be in February as usual. But we feel that we work very well together. We feel very strongly about our commitment to working with Dr. Ewing, and we consider this a long-term relationship for now. I know that we did hear different today, but that's just the business of running a school district. And I am, it's not that I don't feel for those families, and I think we have expressed our concerns to Dr. Ewing behind closed doors. It is not our decision, and it's just the way these things go. So my sympathies, because I remember having a principal removed in my case for my daughter back at Mayfield High School, Mr. Ogas, and I remember how I felt that time too. So I do consider all comments, but I feel very strongly about Dr. Ewing's leadership, and it is what the board considers to be the best move forward. So thank you, Dr. Ewing.
Thank you very much.
This will now take us on to, let's see, we're on number 3.
Yes.
And we had quite of a bit of a shock when we were in Albuquerque. They came out with a cartoon of a couple being held up by two apparent-looking gang members, and they were on a corner, a dark corner at night, and the wife says, "Oh, this must be MS-13 members," and the husband said, "No, they want to be called dreamers." So Dr. Ewing has put together a letter to the editor, to Albuquerque Journal, asking them to, how we stand as far as a district and how we object to the racial quality of that cartoon, the changing of the paradigm, the changing of the language of our dreamers versus a gang member. All people need to be considered equal, and in this cartoon, they were not. It was very sad to us to see that cartoon. We were in Santa Fe at the time that this cartoon came out. I sent it to my children, and my son right away sent, "Oh, this is national. This is not just the objection to it was national." So we have the copy of the letter to the editor in front of us, and so does anyone have any comments?
I just wanted to add that it said Dreamers or Democrats on the cartoon, in the cartoon.
Madam President, if the board would allow, could I ask Dr. Wendy Miller Tomlinson to read her beautiful
Yes.
prose work?
And while she does that, I'm going to use the restroom, so hopefully it will. Excuse me. Yes.
Read slowly, please.
Slowly.
So members of the board, Mr. Superintendent, I wrote this letter. It was difficult to write because of the enraging content of the cartoon, but also, you know, I think that we don't want to be seen as advocating for censorship. So I think that the tone was important as well. On February 7th, the Albuquerque Journal published what has proven to be a controversial editorial cartoon by Sean Delonis. The newspaper later issued an apology in which the editor claimed that even she does, and I quote, "not presume to know what cartoonist Sean Delonis was trying to convey in his cartoon," end quote. At a moment in which debates over both immigration policy and freedom of speech are raging, the cartoon would seem to intervene in both unconstructive and unnecessarily divisive ways. While the First Amendment protects the right of cartoonists and the newspaper to publish opinion without constraint, greater care should be taken to gauge the political impact that reinforcing stereotypes may have on the most vulnerable among us, our children. As educators, each day we make decisions we deem to be in the best interest of our students. We encourage students to express and think for themselves while balancing this duty with the responsibility of guiding and teaching. It is an awesome responsibility, especially given the deep political fracture lines that currently divide our society. We navigate this context as best we can while trying to instill core American values of liberty and justice for all. The Constitution, and particularly the Bill of Rights, are our guiding principles. We are not immigration agents, we are educators. We embrace all children who come through our doors. We strive to protect those who have been marginalized by the color of their skin, their income level, their gender, or their language. We comfort and assure, as best we can, those who through no fault of their own are under threat to lose the only life and country they have ever known. Perhaps when making future decisions about editorial space, the journal can use its platform as an opportunity for differing viewpoints to engage in meaningful ways, rather than for the promotion of stereotypes and irrational fear-mongering. To do otherwise shirks the media's core mission to educate and inform the public. To us, this is part of the responsibility we all share.
Thank you very much for reading that. Board members, any questions or comments on
Well written.
We appreciate it. I will entertain a motion to approve the letter to the Albuquerque Journal regarding the political cartoon referencing Dreamers. Okay, Mr. Castro?
Second.
Ms. Dahlman, second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So thank you for putting that together for us.
Yes, thank you.
We move on to old business, and this is the third, and a reading and approval of policy ADC. Ms.
Thank
Galvin.
you. Thank you very much, Madam President, members of the board, and Superintendent Ewing. Tonight, hopefully, we'll have the last reading of your policy on no smoking. I just want to call attention, you have a multicolored chart that we brought you, and on page 2, Matt, and if you look at your screens there, the green is what's new since your last meeting. Mr. Castro helped us develop this latest addition to your policy where it talks about wanting to have prevention education interwoven with the appropriate curriculum, curricular activities or programs. So that was also an addition. And then in red, your counsel looked it over and she's keeping us legal. And so we have added the appropriate language because, to be honest, if you have someone who's coming to work drunk, that wouldn't probably go through progressive discipline. You want to not have that person in with children. So you see the changes before you, and tonight we have again Alyssa and who else is here tonight? But Chris and Alyssa here to wrap things up on the 24/7 initiative, and also here is Ashley, who's going to talk about what's to come.
And sorry that it's so late already.
No worries.
Yes.
Okay. So, Madam President, members of the board, and Mr. Superintendent. So, my name is Chris Wright, and I am a junior at Arrowhead Park Early College High School. And my name is Alyssa Wright, and I'm a sophomore at Arrowhead Park Early College High School. So, we are here today as members of Involvement, which is a youth-led movement working to decrease the harmful and addictive use of tobacco. One of the campaigns we are working on this year is the 24/7 campaign. The 24/7 campaign is helping New Mexico school districts adopt, implement, and enforce truly comprehensive tobacco-free schools policies. Under a truly comprehensive policy, tobacco and e-cig use, possession, and distribution is prohibited by anyone, anywhere, at any time, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We are so excited to be here tonight to watch the school board vote on a truly comprehensive tobacco-free policy.
Yay.
We're so proud that if this policy is updated, Las Cruces will officially be the 4th district of all of New Mexico to have a 100% tobacco-free school policy. Thank you for your commitment you have to keeping students, staff, and visitors to Las Cruces public schools or school-sponsored activity events healthy. We would also like to thank you for hearing our voices and partnering with us through the 24/7 campaign in order to make this happen. We encourage you to vote yes tonight to approve this policy, ensuring that Las Cruces students will have the healthiest learning environment possible and they can work towards their bright and educated futures. As a reminder, once you decide to adopt these policies, clearly making our schools 100% comprehensively tobacco-free, we have great ways to show your support. First, we will provide free tobacco-free signage to all schools in the division. Second, our free tobacco-free toolkit will be sent to all schools in your division. Third, we will add you to our official map of 100% comprehensive divisions and on handouts and on our website. On behalf of Involvement and the 24/7 campaign, we thank you for partnering with us and making Las Cruces one of the healthiest, most tobacco-free districts in the state. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Excellent.
Stand for questions, Madam President.
Board members, do we have any questions?
I just want to commend the students for this great work that they have done and sitting through this long school board meeting, but clearly, the best has been saved for last. So thank you.
Excellent.
And it's because you brought it forward that we are voting on this. So let's give them a round of applause.
Madam President, I just wanted to say this is another example of listening to student voice.
And Madam President, if I may, I've done this a couple of times with some of my adult friends, but I'll do it here. So girls or ladies, if you'll see Amy here, Amy, raise your hand so they can see you. So I want you to meet Amy and talk to her because this will be you in the future. The Columbia University teacher, college graduate. You sound amazing. And I hope you consider education with us. So thank you.
And Madam President, if you do choose to vote yes tonight, they would like to do a photo op.
Okay.
I think they have a sign and going to
Okay, well,
publicize that event happening.
Let's go ahead and vote then, okay? I will entertain a motion to approve policy ADC, tobacco and alcohol-free schools.
So move. So move. I so move.
Second.
The entire board.
I so move.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So congratulations. It is excellent.
Thank you so much. Nothing would happen without you guys. Thank you. You guys are Ashley, do you want to get the picture? Paul's here, we could take your photo. Oh, wait, let me step out. We want you in the photo. Yeah. Okay, I think we're down to, we voted on everything we can vote on today, so. We have board member reports. Oh, gosh. Board members? Who would like to start?
Can I start?
Go ahead, Mr. Frank,
So
please do.
I'm at a total loss of words to talk about what happened last week in Parkland, Florida. But I do get some encouragement by the students who have spoken up, because certainly the adults have failed them. And I only can hope that they will get it done. And we saw tonight from Cameron that we have movement here too. And I think, if anything is positive is going to happen with the movement to get military-style weapons out of the hands of people and any weapons out of the hands of people who are emotionally unstable, it's going to come from the students. I think they can lead it, and I only encourage you to keep the fight up.
Thank you, Mr. Frank. Who would like to go?
I'll go next.
Go ahead, Ms. Dahlman.
Okay, so I visited many schools and classrooms and district facilities and attended a school board conference this month. And of course, it never ceases to amaze me how wonderful our classes are and the level of dedication and commitment that our staff has. But tonight, sadly, I too will not elaborate or will celebrate the good things our district continues to practice. I choose to use my time to address this horrific incident that took place in Florida this past week. The inability to protect our precious resource, our children, our youth, has become a crisis. The NRA has become so powerful in this country, it now drives national policy, national and state policy. Why are AR-15 assault rifles being sold to citizens? An AR-15 is a combat weapon, and it is intended to be used in war. You've got to be an incredibly lousy hunter or a shooter to need such a weapon. Politicians that continue to take blood money from weapon corporations, these politicians that call themselves family men, conservatives, must realize that they too have a hand in our children's demise again. I am frustrated and I am angry at our lack of action as a nation. How many more children will have to be murdered before people understand that common sense gun control must be a priority? Then I ask myself, what is common sense in a world that lacks it? If you think that slaughtering our children is acceptable, well then continue to vote for conservative politicians. Enough with prayers, sympathy, and moments of silence. This does not protect our children. It is our job, it is our obligation as adults to protect our children. We need to take action, and if we adults are so incompetent and even so stupid to not get our act together, then I turn to our students and ask them to demand safe schools. Students, too, are a critical part of school safety and changing our national climate. Get involved, get organized. Silence and complacency is no longer accepted. Now more than ever, we must continue to implement restorative justice practices so that we can better understand our students' challenges and insurmountable issues. We must be kinder to our children that seem different and/or misunderstood. We must have services in place for depression and mental illness. More importantly, we must not be ashamed or embarrassed to start conversations about uncomfortable topics such as depression, mental illness, and suicide. Finally, we must speak up and we must vote our conscience. Let us be proactive on this issue and protect our most valuable resource, our children.
Thank you.
Thank you. Excellent. Anyone else?
Madam President, I just want to say a couple of things. One, I want to start off by just saying I really want to thank the Student Advisory Council for their advocacy. I know Cameron and Max, but there were a lot of thoughts that went into it and a lot of other high school students that advocated and then eventually passing Senate Memorial 8. And so I think that is something to be proud of. And I want to let you guys know that I am very proud of what you guys accomplished this legislative session. Tonight, I am celebrating my 1-year anniversary of representing my district on the Las Cruces Public Schools Board of Education. And I couldn't be more proud of the people that I sit, my colleagues up here. I just recently attended the New Mexico School Board Association, my second one, and it was a lot different. The perception, my perception of what I was doing between last year and this year was dramatic. I was trying to survive last year, and this year I seem to be giving advice, and people were coming to us, and I had answers to questions where last year I had no idea. This is not by luck. This was intentional. And I want to thank the people that I sit up here with, because you've taken me under your wing. You've guided me. I want to thank our legal counsel. I went to some legal classes, school boards for rookies, and I honestly can say I didn't feel like a rookie. And so it was because I was prepared by many of you, and I just want to say thank you for guiding me through this first year. I also, as a member of the advisory board, the Doñana Community College Advisory Board, Senora Flores and I met with the Higher Learning Commission and over breakfast, and answered many of their questions about some of the things that even came up tonight, as far as dual credit and things that were happening at the Doñana County level. I also want to say the social justice, if you haven't had a chance to attend one of the meetings, I feel lucky that I am on or be able to attend these meetings. But the social justice meetings and what we're doing in the Las Cruces Public School has been amazing, and I'm just so excited for this to continue. I was going to read a quote, but I'm going to leave it for Dr. Serrano to do next time. The last thing I want to say is that I am going to be going to prom.
Oh.
So I just found out, I was looking at my email here, and I don't have a date yet, so I would like to officially ask my wife. I know she's not watching right now at 10 o'clock at night, but I would like to officially ask my wife, Mackenzie, if she would join me in the first annual Best Buddies Prom at Las Cruces High School. And so this will be on March 31st, and although I won't be doing the dancing, I will be playing the music for them. And I just want to tell you a little bit about what the Best Buddies organization and club is. The Best Buddies is an organization or club dedicated to ending the social, physical, and economic isolation of special needs population. These students with the Best Buddy Club become friends and do activities with the special needs student body. And so this will be the first annual prom. And hopefully my wife says yes. I'll let you guys know the next meeting. And so I'm excited to be a part of that activity and that thing. So that's it for my report, Madam President. Thank you.
Mr. Jaramillo. Mr. Castro, did you?
I just have a couple of things to say. I did attend the New Mexico School Board Association conference, and yeah, like you say, you learn a lot, and you never stop learning. But I just want to make a comment on today that nothing made me more prouder than having to evaluate our superintendent. I know he doesn't exactly walk on water, but the boat he's riding doesn't leak, and he's got pedaling against, especially past year, a very strong current. So I'm also very proud of the board and the way that we've worked together. And certainly the school advisory, it's been a big a novelty and a very, very important thing in our deliberations. Yeah, your staff is amazing again. Your leadership is, what can I say? So I'm very proud with the role I took in the evaluation and in the extension of the contract.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. I always have mine.
All right. Can I talk after you talk?
Yes, you can have
just a minute.
A minute.
Okay, 30 seconds.
Okay, I would like to thank Elena Gallegos and HR for terrific training with a full binder on how to follow board policy, district regulations, and flow charts. This was for all administrators to use when dealing with difficult situations at their schools. I think all the board members went to this training, and it was really good. This will enhance process and it improves shared leadership, something I believe in. Congratulations to Hermosa on their beautiful new multi-purpose room.
Missy Elementary, we went to visit them. Mr. Dawkins gave me a tutorial on E-rate, and I'm very grateful to him because I understand it better. I was lucky to attend the Equity Symposium put on by the National School Board Association in DC. This was my first ever national convention, and it was worth the time not shopping with my daughter and realizing we are doing the right things for our students and teachers. I actually brought back a framework of how to improve equity in the schools, Leading for Equity, a practical framework for board discussion and action. I'm going to pass that on to the superintendent. Mr. Armijo attended some of the meetings with me, and you know, we're doing the right things in this district, and that is the most important thing that when you go to these national meetings, you realize, oh, we're on the right page. We're doing what we need to do. So that was very gratifying. I attended the Spanish Spelling Bee at Oñate, and even though I was not able to stay until the end, I enjoyed listening to our students do a great job spelling words and practicing with them. I also learned a new word, hito, which is a historical marker, and I did not know that. I want to congratulate our students again for going and presenting to the Senate. I actually stayed up and watched the vote. It was like 10:30, I think, at night. And I saw Senator Steinborn, and I saw when they passed it. So I got up and cheered while my husband was watching Wonder Woman in the background. Okay. Well, to each his own, right? Miranda Viscoli with New Mexicans to Prevent Gun Violence will be here on the 1st of March, and she would like to meet with the board members. I think you've been contacted about this to talk about bringing awareness on these issues to Las Cruces. I will be out of town. I will meet with her previous to that, but I asked my fellow board members to meet with her. Our condolences to the family of Miss Olga Pedrosa. Yesterday was her memorial. Recently retired from the Las Cruces City Council. I worked with her for 8 years as a council member, and she was inspiration to me and to all women elected officials. May she rest in peace. Finally, one has to admit that our schools, teachers, and students are under attack from within. We need to stand up to our legislators and ask for more than thoughts and prayers. We must do it for all of us, for our children, our students, and our future. Life is already hard enough. Being afraid is not what we want our students to learn. We do not want the promise of safety and security to fail our students. The students in Florida are showing us the way. So thank you. And Dr. Ewing, I know you had something to say.
Oh, wow. Well, I just wanted to take a moment and say thank you to the board for the contract extension through 2021. So I'm looking at the staff, and we have some work to do. But that really is, for me, it's a validation of the work of the entire staff. And so it's not me, but it's collectively everyone in the room. We all work very hard every day. I appreciate the work of all of you very, very much. And it's an honor and a privilege, as I've always said, and I am very cognizant that I serve at the pleasure of the board, and to have your support and to have your ability to believe in me for another 3 years is very remarkable and very much appreciated. So I just want to say thank you, and I want to say thank you to the staff, because I wouldn't be here if you weren't supporting me. So thank you as well. Thank you to the legal counsel that I call probably more often than I should. And lastly, Gabe Roberto has texted me to make sure that I give you thanks for your work on the bond. I do know he worked because he walked even my neighborhood and wanted to know where I was the day he rang my doorbell that I didn't answer. And so it just again goes to show collective work. So thank you, Madam President. Thank you to each board member for your confidence, and we're excited to continue our journey with you.
And so are we. Without any further items, I will make I ask for a motion to adjourn. Okay, Mr. Castro, Ms.
Second.
Dahlman, all in favor?
Aye.
Good night, thank you.